Okay. I just like to make a real short one because they keep threatening to. If you say the wrong thing, they 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 threaten to end my channel. It's like nobody watches it anyways. But I don't think they're doing a good job of policing. I mean, censorship's one thing, but they're not even doing a good job. They threatened to they took down a couple of my videos. I appealed because it was on COVID, and I didn't say COVID was a hoax. I didn't say don't get vaccinated. No, they'll probably take this down. I didn't say any of those things. As a matter of fact, I said the opposite. I said, look, I almost died from COVID. COVID's real, you know. I didn't wear masks as religiously as maybe I should have. And I kind of poo pooed that and thought it was like some sort of infringement on my rights. My dad died of COVID. Um, I almost died of COVID. All I said was, I'm beginning to I've always been, against misinformation. Get your COVID shots. For the most part, I thought the lockdowns and the restrictions were a proper, necessary, and all the objections to it being unconstitutional were frivolous. That's for the most part, 90%. I did think that some of these things were excessive, and towards the end, I was getting a little bit bent. The one reason that they took my videos down was they said, look, I'm against misinformation. I understand that it should be fought. But, and I'm for vaccinations. I think the vaccinations work, and I don't think COVID's a hoax, and I think you should wear a mask. They weren't sure about how effective masks are, but in order for them to be effective, two people have to be wearing it because when you poof, it stops the spit from flying. So if you're wearing a mask and somebody's coughing and spewing, um, not so effective. And the type of mask that you had to wear was important too. And my sister, the doctor, got me some good ones, the good medical kind. All I said was, you know what? I've kind of had a change of heart. I'm beginning to understand why people feel put upon their civil liberties with the government constantly. This is going on too long, is what I said. You can't expect people to, in an emergency situation like a war or a health crisis, that's one thing. But if you're trying to turn this into a permanent policy of infringement, I maybe I was wrong and they were right. It can't go on forever, is what I said. Because it's causing people to commit suicide. Kids are getting depressed, and it's really hard on the economy. You can't pay people to stay home forever. You're going to bankrupt the economy. I did say that. I also said um, I'm not a big free speech booster compared to some people. I'm not an absolutist. I'm more. Maybe I'm wrong about this. That was what I said. Maybe I'm wrong to think that the European way of doing things with the curbs on hate speech. Maybe I'm wrong to think that because there's so much room for abuse, and that's getting to my second point, and I'm beginning to come around to the more conservative, because conservatives are for their own form of censorship. They want to censor people too. They probably want to censor me more than the liberals or the lefties would. Maybe libertarian. Maybe I'm coming around to the libertarian. Maybe you limited government types out there are winning me over. Because government's wonderful. Sweden, Scandinavia, hate speech. But the ironic thing was Sweden didn't have lockdowns. And it was debatable. People say, well, their death rates were much higher than, say, like Norway or Finland. But were they? They seemed to. The Swedes seemed to be okay. It's the immigration thing they've got a problem with. I'm looking for a mask. I used to have masks everywhere. Where the hell are the masks? Do I even have any masks? I just left them where I dropped them, I think. So there should be. My leg. Can't see what these. Okay, here's one. Here's one. I guess that's all I need is one. What the hell is this? Oh, I got stuff lying around. I don't even know what it is. Oh, this is to my grooming bag. Okay, I get what that is. Hey, you know, you're gonna have to hang on. I gotta take a pee. Oh, I'm an old man. I got a leaky bladder. I don't want to walk around smelling like urine. Oh, again. I'm a 5-year-old with a dirty diaper. Oh, this is humiliating. Hopefully you can't hear that. It's very rude. Oh, I gotta take a pee. Oh, there we go. Oh, all right, pissing on. Here, that's what I got the Lysol for. Okay, here we go. Oh, Jesus. I'm running out of toilet paper. Oh, my wife. I gotta wash my hands. My method of fighting COVID is just to stay away from people. So what if it kills me? How do I contribute to society? Maybe the world would be better off without one extra old fat white man who had to retire early because he didn't take care of his health. All right. See, I got this. I'm not trying to. Just you can get some really amazing things. Well, I don't know how amazing they are, but I got this on Amazon. I think the problem with Amazon is just too easy to. When you start ordering, it smells like coconut. It's very nice, and it's not like sticky or greasy. And then it evaporates. And see, I think my hair looks pretty good. And then I got this beard trimmer. I don't think I should do this, but it's one time I was like experimenting with the hair, but I don't think I did a bad job. I stopped after a while because I realized it's hard to keep everything even, so I just did it on the sides. All right, I'm getting off track again, which is why nobody ever watches my. All right, so the COVID thing I got censored because somebody wasn't paying attention and they thought I was saying, you know, it's all a hoax. COVID's not real. It's just big corporations trying to make money and keep us in our houses. It's all a conspiracy to enslave us, the new global order, blah, 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 blah. Now, do I believe that? Probably get censored for even repeating that. I don't believe that. I come from a medical family. COVID was real. The vaccines, for the most part, were amazing. It's like the economy. That's another thing. Oh, the economy's so bad. If you look at the world economies, we're doing pretty good. The biggest problem with the American economy is inequality. I was just looking at some statistics. Not in income, but net wealth. The Swiss are the highest. The United States is second. Then you got the Danes. I was surprised. The French do okay. But here's the difference. You have to look at the difference between the mean and the median. The average income, you take the rich, you take the poor, you take everybody, you add up all the wealth, and you divide by how many people you have. Now that can be deceptive, and here's why. Especially in the United States, which is the most unequal country. You got a lot of poor people, and you got a lot of rich people. And the rich people, that's why we look so rich on paper, because the rich have all the money, you know, in their pockets. And you say, well, the countries that are more equal, they're all poor as shit. And, you know, you're all equal. But what, Alexa, what's my notification?
Bill, there's one new notification. From your follow updates. Box office update. Napoleon has earned more than $200 million in the global box office.
I wasn't impressed by Napoleon. Can I get banned for that? I wasn't impressed by Napoleon. Well, the person I was, that's why I went to go see the movie. Napoleon, and everybody's going to have an opinion on this. Was he a fascist? Was he a communist? Was he left wing? Was he right wing? Did he kill people? Napoleon was a great man, and he's responsible for the modern world. And you think, oh well, modern world sucks. You don't want to say that. You especially say you were a Catholic living in a Protestant country, or say you were a Protestant living in a Catholic country, or say that you were a Jew living anywhere. I mean, in the Western world, you're stuck in a ghetto and you had no rights, and people could take stuff from you. Napoleon, not that he was this big enlightened guy, he was very practical. The civil code said that as long as you were loyal to his regime, like the Romans in the old days, they didn't give a shit whether you were a Jew or a pagan or whatever you were. As long as you were loyal to Rome, they were willing to give you rights. Now, if you're going to fight against Rome, they'd stick a pike up your ass and let the birds eat you. The Romans could be unbelievably, unspeakably vicious and brutal. But as long as the difference between them and a Nazi was, as long as you went along with their program, and it didn't matter whether you were black or white or whatever, as long as you were loyal to Rome, they'd give you some rights and they'd welcome you in as long as you were loyal. And Napoleon was like that too. As long as you were loyal to Napoleon, he didn't give a shit whether you were, although I guess he brought slavery back, but that was more for practical reasons. And that was bad. There's no excusing that. But you got to understand, it was like people like Napoleon that started the ball rolling towards, one of these days we got to get rid of slavery because we think we're so free and equal, and then we're treating these people like animals. That's not right. And then they say, oh, look at the bad stuff that you white people did. Well, everybody did it. I mean, you want to talk about horrible slavery? It still exists in the Islamic world. We were the ones that said, you know what, the world's going to stop. We're going to stop this, and we're going to start with ourselves. But not saying we didn't do bad things, but you got to give us some credit for doing away with it. And that was our idea. Our idea was to be better people. So when I hear all this stuff about reparations and stuff, just shut up and be glad that you're living in the United States and you have an opportunity. There are anti-discrimination laws and welfare, and you're a lot better off here now than say wherever it is that you were. Well, I'll just say with Africa. A lot of African Americans went back to Africa and says, you know what, I'm tired of being shit on by the white man. I'm tired of being mistreated. I'm going to go back and live with my African brothers. The one interesting thing about that is African Americans aren't black anymore. And it's another terrible thing about like rape and intersexual. Yeah, it wasn't exactly consensual. A lot of it wasn't, let's face it. But if you take a black person and take him back to Africa, you can tell there's a difference between a black African and a black American. They got different features. They got a lot of blacks got white blood in them. I know you don't like that, but you just do. Your features are different. You're bigger. You're stronger. I'm not going to say you're more intelligent because I'm sure that's true. But you come from a culture where you have the opportunity to learn a lot more. Okay, so they go back to Africa and they realize that they're different and they get treated different, and they become kind of like an elite and they're hated. And plus, you're not going to get the same kind of life there that you would here. So I'm sorry for being white, but not sorry. The reason I'm not sorry is because, okay, you went through a lot of bad stuff with the slavery. Nobody in my family ever owned slaves. And here's the thing. Now, like there are a lot of societies like Ireland, they got put into slavery and, the genocide. The Irish were treated terrible, but all they said is, you know what, get the hell out of our country and we'll work ourselves. We don't want you giving us handouts or reparations or anything. Just leave us the fuck alone. Singapore was the same way. Just get out. Just get out. We learned some stuff from you, and now we're on our own. And those are two successful countries. There's no one sitting around going, oh, poor me, give me things. You're responsible for all my problems. They acknowledge that they've had a bad time, especially with the British were awful. But to sit around and whine and snivel and complain about how horrible your ancestors had it. Did my ancestors have it? Well, actually, they were poor. They were dirt poor. Did they have opportunities? I suppose, but this is the real thing. Nobody in my family went to college till did Grandpa go to college in Holland? I think maybe the Queen sent him. He got some kind of scholarship, but it wasn't 4 years. Well, my parents' generation, my dad went to school in the GI Bill. Nobody could go to college. You know, nobody. Although he was a wealthy farmer, so I guess they made him Burgermeister. And my grandmother's father was a treasurer of the Carpenters Union. I mean, well, that's not rich, but the reason he was because nobody trusted anybody else. It was like, you know, Bill Lahr, he's a decent carpenter and he's a pretty friendly guy, but the reason we're putting him in charge of the money is maybe I wouldn't say he's too stupid to be dishonest. Some people think that being honest is stupid, but it's not. It's you got to have societies with like Sweden and Singapore and Northern Europe where there are low levels of corruption. They do better. It's not that they're necessarily smarter or even that they work harder, although they do. You take a society like Italy or Greece. Are those people stupid and lazy? No, they're not. The reason why people think that, let's take Greece, for example. People in Greece are lazy is because they take like these siestas in the middle of the day. Have you ever been Greece in summer? Because I've heard about this. It is so friggin' hot, and this was before air conditioning. It might be different now. That if you don't take a break, you will die of heat prostration. A lot of these hot societies, you know, like close to Africa, it's just too hot to work hard. And in the winter, there's snow. There's nothing else to do but work. What are you going to do, you know? Go out and hang out on the beach? I don't think so, because it's freezing. It's too cold, so you stay inside like the Swiss and you make your little cuckoo clocks. So it's not that these societies are made of stupid people or are lazy people. Look at their wonderful cultures: the Parthenon, philosophy, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Well, the Romans had the military: Julius Caesar, Augustus Caesar, Tiberius Gracchus. I think amazing. You go and look at the stuff that they did 2,000 years ago. It was amazing. These societies were so advanced, but they were cruel and that they were corrupt, and that corruption is what brought them down. And that corruption is what kind of holds them back, and is the reason why these backward society in Northern Europe. I mean, and my ancestors were backwards compared to the Italians and the Greeks. They were like. They looked at them basically as monkeys, though they called them barbarians, and they were, you know. They were on the same level as people that lived in mud huts in Africa running around naked. Only you couldn't run around naked in Germany because it was too cold. You were wearing some smelly animal skin. They were pretty primitive people, but they caught on to civilization eventually. They didn't think it was a great idea, but eventually they realized they have to unless they were going to be invaded. And I think the reason why they excelled over these societies that were so superior and so far advanced for thousands of years, while they were just like living in. My ancestors lived in grass huts and slept with animals. They were very primitive people. The Celts ran into battle naked with their faces painted blue. Were any of my ancestors Celtic? Well, France, Vercingetorix. Well, I mean, you know, they ran into battle naked because it wasn't so hot. And then the Franks, the Germans, they basically trashed Europe. They set Europe back 1,000 years. That's what the Germans do. They get angry and they just trash everything and kill everyone. The Vikings were basically Germanic. I don't know. I'm not down on them because they were badass motherfuckers, and so what? They did bad things. Sorry about that, but I'm not going to waste my time feeling guilty because look what we did. We came from so far below and we managed to move our way up. A lot of that was aggression. A lot of that wasn't. Like the boats that the Vikings used to make. Nobody made those boats for us. We invented those boats, and those were good boats. We went all the way across to Newfoundland in those boats. And that took some hard work, boy. Even stealing takes hard work. So, I mean, raping and pillaging the English. Yeah, that was the other thing. We took all the cute women from all over the world. That was, sorry about that. But that's the way the world was. It was like, was it just white people that were like that? No, everybody was like that. You had the Kingdom of Dahomey. It was just like somewhere along the line, the Enlightenment, somehow, you know why white people got more advanced than the other races? It was a fucking accident. Was it guns, germs, and steel? No, it was coffee houses. We started drinking instead of drinking booze, which made us kind of sloppy and stupid, and we were behind. Okay, we were behind everyone. No, we weren't behind everyone. We were on the same level as everyone else. We had the same technology. We had the same sort of hierarchical structures in our societies. And then we started drinking coffee in coffee houses. I guess other people had coffee too, but something unique about what we did with coffee. We'd sit around and drink coffee, boiled water with flavor, these flavors in it. It wasn't all that great, but because you couldn't drink water, you had to drink alcohol because if you didn't, the water would kill you. So low alcohol beer, maybe I don't know where spirits came from, but people drank booze for a reason. It wouldn't make you shit all day long, dysentery, and then you die. Alcohol killed you much more slowly. And you do stupid things and you couldn't think straight. Coffee would make you alert, and all of a sudden people had these ideas: separation of powers, democracy, art, literature, science. Science. Is there something better than a candle? Leonardo da Vinci sitting around drinking coffee instead of wine. He goes, I think I am making me a helicopter, a tank. He was 500 years ahead of everybody else. Stupid Italian. He wasn't stupid. He was maybe, he was Italian. He was probably the smartest man that ever lived, Leonardo da Vinci. Michelangelo. Brilliant, brilliant people. An artist. Oh, beautiful artist. Martin Scorsese. Yeah, I think, Martin Scorsese is an American. But Fellini, Visconti. Goya was Spanish. Well, anyways, a lot of good art in Italy. Really good statues and stuff. And Leonardo da Vinci wasn't just an artist. He was probably the smartest. Tesla. I think Leonardo da Vinci, considering the times he lived in, was probably the smartest man that ever lived. They say he might have been gay too, but I don't care. As long as he didn't hit on me, I didn't really, that was his thing, And as long as he kept it on the down low, because the Pope wasn't really at the time. They weren't really happy about it. They took the old biblical, throw him in a pit and stone him kind of thing. So Leonardo had to stay on the down low. I mean, Michelangelo, they say Michelangelo was gay. They couldn't have all been gay. But they say on average, gay people are more intelligent than straight people. I don't know why that is either. Are they more sensitive? Do they know something we don't know? Yeah, but they got AIDS. I don't know. I got nothing against the gays. This whole transgender thing seems a little weird to me, and they got to leave the kids alone because the kid doesn't know what's good for him. Oh, I think I'm a girl because maybe I'll get more attention, or maybe I'm a boy and then the boys will stop hitting on me because I have tits. You know what? If you're one of those people, I don't hate you, and I hope you're happy, and I hope somehow you resolve the because I was miserable when I was a kid. Everybody used to call me a faggot, and because you were allowed to do that, and they'd pick on me and beat me up. I did eventually move to San Francisco. I don't think there's anything wrong with being who you are. But I think this whole transgender thing is off the mark. I think a lot of people that are transgender, say you're a guy that likes to dress up like a girl. Dress up like a girl. Do you need to have your cock cut off and grow tits? I'm not so sure. I mean, you got to take hormones. It's going to take years off your life. Just wear the dress, and wait till you're an adult. But God love you. That's, I guess, the way God made you. God made me this way. People tell me I'm a very effeminate man, or they used to, or I had a very effeminate personality. Believe it or not, I put on a good act, but that's what they say. You don't react the way a man reacts. You react, you get hurt, and you cry, and that's not manly. You're not a man. So maybe I'm not. Maybe I like to cry. I'm just me. The whole transgender thing, it seems a little bit off. You take an 8-year-old and you put them on hormones or whatever they do, forget about that. I'm not even sure they should let 18-year-olds do that. Wait till you're 21 and you're fully grown, Give it some thought, because they're like people that are saying, oh boy, do I regret this. And it saps your bones. And there are so many health problems with these hormones. All right, so I'll probably get banned for that. But no hating on the transgender, because, the Swedes stopped doing that shit, because they looked at the science. I'm pro-science, and they said, yeah, this isn't really helping anybody. I think we might have made a mistake. I'm more pragmatic now. I'm more whatever works. And a lot of times ideology of the left and right, it's just, you got to look at what works. what was I going on about? Oh, it's 24 minutes. So censorship. Now that I'm going with all these controversial topics, so nobody even cares what I think. I'm in the middle. Do what you want. Just don't splash it on anybody else, and leave the fucking kids alone. Guns. I guess that's okay to advocate for gun control. That's one thing that's not controversial. Well, it's controversial not with these platforms like Google or Meta. Who it's controversial with is the gun nuts, and they'll come after you. And all I said was, you know what? All right, in lieu of just like banning assault rifles and banning handguns like they do in Canada, maybe there's a third way. Instead of just letting every lunatic run around with a gun, what they do in places like Switzerland and Czech is they do more than just background checks, though. I mean, you can have a gun, but you gotta prove that you're not a criminal, and you gotta prove that you're not some kind of a nut. You gotta get a license, and you gotta take a course. Maybe you don't have to take a training course, but you gotta prove that you don't need to take a training course. They ask you a bunch of technical questions about gun safety, and then they take you out on the course, and they make sure that you know what you're doing. It doesn't seem like such a bad idea. Now, 95% of the people that apply for these gun licenses, and they're not that expensive, and they're not that hard, and you do have to register, they don't they've had these laws in effect since communism fell, like, say, in the Czech Republic. You got to get a license. It's not that hard. You got to prove you're competent. It seems to work, though, because they've got their homicide rate's about 0.7. It's very, very low. It's like half of what it is in Great Britain or France, and it's like 1/10 of ours. You can own a gun. You can even carry a gun, but you got to take a test, and they want you to be vetted. And if they find out that you're like a felon or a drunk, or I think in Switzerland, if you don't pay your speeding tickets, they'll knock on your door and say, you know what, you're not a good citizen. Where are your guns? We're taking them. You're not a good German. You got to prove that you're not a threat to the community, and most law-abiding citizens aren't. But you got to prove that. So they're going to put you through some red tape and bureaucracy. But the way they do it, they're very, very keen on protecting individual rights because they lived under communism and they kind of feel the way we do. If the citizenry is armed, maybe it'll be harder for a totalitarian government to take power again. Not that many Czech people actually own guns because it's a safe country and they don't feel the need. There's not a lot of hunting going on. But if you're one of those people that feels the need to have a gun for hunting or shooting at a target, most places in Europe frown on you having one for self-defense. Although I think the laws are changing in Italy. You can get a special license, but they make you take a training course. In Czech, they have a special license. It's a little harder to get. So I want to keep this gun in my house for self-defense. And they go, okay, we got to test. We got to make sure that you don't, you haven't had trouble with your neighbors. You don't beat your wife. You're not an antisocial type. I think some countries in England they'll actually go out and they'll interview your neighbors. Do you think this guy's a hothead? And in England they have pretty strict gun laws, but I think they do that in Czech too. And if your neighbors object, you can appeal that, which can get complicated. But you talk to people in Czech, they'll say, yeah, the government doesn't really abuse that. That's only like in real extreme cases where someone's like a real red flag. So he says, well, I don't feel safe on the street. And they go, what? This is Czech. This is a safe country. All right. You know what? You take a test, and we'll even let you carry 2 at a time if you really don't feel safe on the streets. But don't be acting the fool with those guns, or we're going to take them from you. And there are people. I watch YouTube, and there are people. There are women or whatever, and men. That's equal rights, that apply for these handgun permits, and they get them, and they're allowed to carry the guns around with them, as long as they don't act the fool. You start acting the fool, and you're going to forfeit your privilege to carry a gun. You can't just walk around in public and brandish it and run after people and threaten them, which a lot of Americans do. They're morons. You have to be a good citizen. But you can't own a gun as long as you are a responsible citizen. I remember my parents saying this. that they used to teach us civics. That with rights became responsibility. If you weren't a responsible person, you forfeited your rights. Um, People now say, well, rights are unequivocal. You don't have to be well behaved. You don't have to be law abiding. You just have to, like, maybe don't rob banks. If you start doing that, it's okay if you beat your wife. It's okay if you use the N word and threaten minorities walking down the street. That's your right. Well, that's the thing I object to. That's the paradox of freedom, or the paradox of tolerance. If you start tolerating conduct like that, your whole society is going to fall apart. There has to be a limit to acceptable behavior. And if you go beyond those limits, you forfeit your freedoms. I don't think there is such a thing as a right. I think there should be privileges, qualified privileges. As long as you are responsible and can pass the test and aren't a drunk and aren't a criminal and aren't mental, then you have a right. But no right should be unlimited. People say, well, then it's not a right. Well, then, if that's your definition of a right, then none of us have rights. There's no such thing as natural law. If the law of nature, you have no rights. It's either kill or be killed, eat or be eaten. That's what nature's all about. So don't tell me about the law, the natural law. Natural law is Machiavelli. It's the law of the fucking jungle. Pardon my French. All right, now we're going to get to we're finally, after 30 minutes, we're going to get around to what I was going to beef about, because I don't know how long this will be up, because maybe they don't like this. Maybe they don't like me saying these things. I said some things very critical of Israel, and I'll just tell you my history here. Oh, and how is my science fiction coming? It's coming. This guy escaped from Roswell, or Area 51, is it? He had a homing beacon stuck in his abdomen, and it was malfunctioning. And so when Hamas captured him, then he dressed up like an old Jewish lady, and the IDF captured him, and then they examined him, and they realized he wasn't an old Jewish lady. He wasn't even he wasn't a guy. They called the Americans who were there. I mean, I don't know if you realize it, but covertly were there already. And they called in the men from black, and they dragged him back to Roswell, Area 51. They're doing medical experiments on him. I don't know what they do. They're poking and prodding, and they set off this homing beacon that zapped him back, transmat beamed him, boom. It's supposed to take you back in an emergency. But of course it wasn't working, because it was a used one, and it was it wasn't up to certification. It was just some old chip that they stuck in him, just to say, yeah, he's got a chip in him. They're expensive, and so it zapped him back light years, back through all the portals that bring him back to where he was from. And since it was old and malfunctioning, he's a little bit like, it's kind of like sticking your finger in an electrical socket, or getting kicked in the balls, or, maybe a bad case of COVID. Maybe you stuck your hand on a hot stove, or whatever. Like one of those cartoon cats that, like the coyote gets burned up in the explosion. I mean, he's not scarred for life or anything, but he's got like nerve damage, and they gotta regenerate him and do all kinds of stem cell, modern futuristic-y stuff to like recuperate him, because being zapped through light years through space on a transmat beam that's bouncing off all these beacons. It's not even a properly functioning homing chip. It's old. It's old school. So he was in the hospital for a while, and then he gets out and he realizes that his boss, who did all these horrible things, who was on the run, not so much for what he did to him, they don't really care about that, but for tax evasion. I mean, not that taxes are so high, but he was skirting all the laws, and they had to make an example of somebody, because there's just so much corruption out in space. It's basically anarcho-capitalism with a very, very minimal government. The government says, yeah, we're doing something, and they don't. They don't enforce laws. And this was so egregious that this guy gets stuck on Earth and gets sent to Roswell. They warned them not to do that, but they thought, oh well, no one's no one even knows that this guy's here, and they want to keep it quiet because they don't even want people to know that they have relations with Earth. So he goes back to where his boss was working. His boss is on the lam because I guess he owed people money, and he was cheating other people too, putting these phony chips in them and sending them to the wrong places. I guess it wasn't just him. He wasn't running business. He wasn't running a very honest business, and I guess it wasn't the government that came after him. It was like a consumer agency, an NGO. So he's running tax evasion, not following this code, not following that code. So he buys his old boss's business with all the lawsuit money he gets from suing his boss's estate, I guess, or the government or the space station. He sues somebody. He finds a deep pocket and he gets enough money to buy the travel agency. And he's going to send people. It's kind of a gray area. Instead of sending him to Monte Carlo and Las Vegas and Hawaii and hanging out on the beaches in the French Riviera, skiing in the Alps. He doesn't have a time dilator, but he's telling him, this other guy tells him, hey, do you know what's coming up? I mean, we have the technology that we can look a little bit into the future. Time travel is kind of a iffy thing. It's hard to control, and you can get stuck there. So a time dilator will help you, since you're traveling faster than the speed of light anyways. He says, you don't need one of those things. Do you know what's coming up soon? The Earth is just going to explode. There's stuff going on in Gaza. It's going to metastasize. It's going to morph. It's going to mutate into a world war. And plus, what's going on in the Ukraine and Taiwan, it's all going to blow up. Maybe in an alternate timeline. It says, at least we don't need a time dilator. We just need a multi. We have to find some way to travel into maybe a slightly different dimensional stream. Because I'm telling you, it's either this timeline or another timeline. The whole Earth is going up. And boy, until they start flinging those nukes, we can send people down there to have a great time fighting. So that's what he's doing. He's going to be running his intergalactic travel agency to the Earth as a sort of like a paintball. People go on these paintball things with the Nerf guns or whatever. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be war. The Earth is going to be a place where people could go practice their war gaming. Like a Predator, they were hunters. This you get to do it's kind of like that kind of a thing. Anyways, this is what I got in trouble for, and I'm sorry. I say some things that are just bad. I guess they could be interpreted anti-Semitic, which I'm not really. I mean, I watched this guy named Jacob Shapiro, and he kind of makes, if you look him up, he kind of makes sense. He says Judaism is a religion. Zionism was created by secular atheists and nationalists, people that hated being Jews and just wanted to assimilate. And when they realized that didn't work, they wanted their own nation. Everybody else is a nation. Why can't we have a nation? Even though it's a religion. And it's not a matter of a nationality. There are people of all races and religion. You can convert to Judaism. It's just, Judaism is obedience to God, is what this guy's saying. Zionism changed Judaism into something that it was not and was never supposed to be. A nationality and a race with an army and a football team and all the racism and bigotry and all the negative things that nationalism brings along. And he says the Bible says, and he says this is what the Bible says and what religious Jews believed. At some point, the people of Israel, the Jewish people, did something God didn't like. They kind of turned his back. We don't need you anymore. We're fine. We're fine. We're good. We can do this on our own. God got really angry at this disobedience, and it says in the Bible, I'm going to expel you from the land again. You're going to have to leave, and until the Messiah comes, you are to live in countries and be good citizens and set an example for other people on how to live. If you want my favor, if not, and this is where I think I got in trouble. Some people, and Christians do this too. Some people interpret the Bible as predicting Hitler and saying Hitler was not an actor for the devil. Hitler, in a way, this is some people's interpretation. Hitler, in a way, these people say, was kind of doing the work of God. God wanted, Jewish people that had turned their back and were being disobedient to his laws to be punished. That's one way to interpret it, and it's very controversial and it's kind of harsh to think that God would do these terrible things. But that's what the religious Jews say. He says this is what happens when you disobey God. He sends wrath, And this is why the state of Israel is a heresy, and that's why there's so much conflict around it and all this misery and fighting and killing. It's because it's stealing. It's stealing and it's murdering. And if you are a real Jew, you don't lie, you don't cheat, and you don't steal people's land or rape or murder. And this is why we're getting in trouble. These people that say they're Jews, and they're not. They're Zionists. The other thing he said, and it's really true, is that Jews aren't completely responsible or to blame for Zionism. Some were. This Herschel guy, came up with it. We need a nation. Everybody else is a nation. Why don't we? We'll go back after 2,000 years and kick these people off their land, like the Americans did with the with the American Indians. Excuse me, this is our land. After 2,000 years, you're going to have to go live someplace else, which is infuriating. That is infuriating. Why would you make someone live someplace else? It's their home. What the fuck is wrong with you that you would even think that? So the religious Jews say, look, there are Jews living in the Holy Land. There always have been. They got along pretty well with the Muslims and the Christians, and it was kind of, under the Ottomans, there was peace there. And now that you've got the Zionist government, there's nothing but war. And we were warned about this. And plus, there's another aspect to this. Christian Zionism. Before there was Jewish Zionism, there was Christian Zionism. And it's pretty much exclusively a Protestant thing, and just certain Protestant sects. In England, they read it in the 16th, 17th century, going back to the Protestant Reformation. If you read the Bible, and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because I think the Bible says that the Jews have to go back to Israel before Jesus will come back. And then he'll kill everybody who's not like us. And if the Jews don't convert, and most of them won't, according to this prediction, we get to kill them or God will kill them. I don't know what's going on. It's pretty gruesome stuff the way they interpret it. But I mean, it's been retranslated so many different. It's like astrology. You can make it say anything you want, but that's what the Protestants did. And they say, yeah. The Balfour Agreement will help you move back to Israel. So it's not just the Jews that are at fault for this horrible, ghastly perversion of the Jewish religion. It's not even the Jewish religion. It's like when people say Islam isn't a religion; it's a political entity. It's Islamofascism. I think there's a political. You can say that about Christian, the Catholic Church and the Phalange. Protestants and the KKK. I don't want to pick on anybody here. And sometimes I get a little heated and I'm bipolar and I say things I shouldn't say. And just for the record, if you read any of that shit that I printed, I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. My mouth goes off. Maybe I'm self-hating, I got a lot of German blood. I don't really like the Germans. I'm like Heinz 57. The only ethnicity that's in this fat body that I actually, and you're going to see this and you'll write something nasty. I'm part French. I like them. I understand the French. They're arrogant. They're rude. They're insufferable. They're self-absorbed. They're very arrogant about their culture, and I love them for that. It's like I go to France and I see these snotty, rude people, and I go, I'm home. Everybody here is just as miserable as I am. You know, in France, they keep saying what a basket case it is. I was just doing some research on net worth. The mean is different than the median income. The mean means you take everybody, rich and poor alike, you add up everything that they own, and you divide by like 300 million or whatever it is, and that average, that mean is what your net worth for the average person is. The median is different. The median is you eliminate the rich and you eliminate the poor, which is basically the middle class. You take the average person, you go to his house, and you look at his bank book, and you see how he lives. The average French person, when I say average, I mean the mean, like the not the if you take out the rich and the poor and you just look at how a real person, a real Frenchman lives, his net worth is higher than the average American's because our country is so unequal that even though France doesn't have the same standard of living we do, the average person lives better there and is wealthier. Australia too. They don't produce as much as we do, but they save money, and the average person lives better. They're rich people. They've got rich people, but the average person. When I say the average person, I don't mean someone on welfare. I mean the average person that gets up and goes to a job every day and saves his money and takes care of his health care. Blah 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 blah. Does better in a place like the Dutch are weird. The Dutch are like in debt, so I guess their net worth is kind of low, and it's because they buy their houses, but then they don't pay off their mortgage. They're in debt to their mortgage. The way the Dutch mortgage laws are written, it's real easy to get a mortgage, and it's really hard to evict them. So people get in debt, and they've got their house, but so what? They're in debt like for more than the house is worth. And they can't kick them out, which is probably why they have a housing shortage. The Belgians, I don't know what it is about them. They all own their own homes, and they're not like that. They of all the people in the world, the people with the highest median net worth, not the median income, but the median net worth is Belgium, for God's sakes. Because I guess they save. And they've got super high taxes. But if you invest in Belgium, there's no capital gains tax. So even average people invest. So I'm not saying that communism or socialism is the best way to go, but maybe like social democracy, making sure that the people at the top, they have to pay their taxes. Because the disparity between rich and poor, that's the difference between the mean net worth and the median net worth. You can see there's a big difference. The mean net worth, the average American is worth a lot of money because it's not the average American. It's this imaginary person that's created because most of the money's at the top. So there aren't really a lot of people like that. Median is more realistic. It's like you take the rich people, we're not looking at you. We're not the poor people living on the street, we're not looking at you. We're looking at how the bulk of people, average Joe Blow lives. And there are a lot of societies in Europe where people, the average person, has managed to save a lot more than the average American is in debt. All right, so let's get back to what's going to get me kicked off of the internet. I mean, get off YouTube and get it out of the way because maybe it won't be up long, and maybe it'll be an explanation. I'm sorry I said terrible things. I got angry. I'll tell you what it is. I shouldn't do this. It's my fault. I know that there are bad things happening in Ukraine and Syria. It's not the only place. But the news, and I shouldn't watch the news, got the Israeli government. I know that thing with Hamas, and I'm not, for the record, I'm not a Hamas booster. The hell with. Fuck Hamas. Really. It's like when they went into Germany and they bombed Dresden and Leipzig. It's not sympathy for the Nazis. It's just that those places had no military value. It was just done as revenge. It was done as collective punishment. And collective punishment is a war crime. And you can see what's going on in Gaza. It's like, oops, a bomb fell here. They're just slaughtering those people. And it makes people angry. And it makes people, when you never hate your enemy because it affects your judgment. You never get angry. It's like, Alexa, play Peace in Every Step by Audible.
Getting your selection from Audible. Resuming Peace is Every Step.
I recommend that the next time you hear the phone ring, just stay where you are. Breathe in and out consciously. Smile to yourself and recite this verse. Listen, listen. This wonderful sound brings me back.
Serenity now! Serenity now! Alexa, stop. I'm trying to get these horrible, terrible thoughts out of my fucked up demon-possessed brain. Some people might say it's a demon. Other people might say that it's a mental illness, a chemical imbalance, schizophrenia. Who knows? But there's a little switch that goes off in my head, and I'm no longer me. I tried to. Therapists have said, "Oh, you're a nice person. You just what is that? What do you think that being a tough guy is going to impress anybody? You're a little wimpy guy." There is a time when a little switch goes off in my head, and I'm a different person. I'm a different person. And maybe it's from abuse or I don't know, trauma, whatever. But I'm not the same person. And I'm not a nice person. I think maybe a good word would be evil. Charles Manson. I'm not the kind of person you want to be around. And 99% of the time I'm not that person. But certain things, it's like David Banner in the Hulk. It's like Angry Man on the Mystery Man or whatever. Certain things will set me off terribly. Terribly, 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 they'll set me off. And I become this ugly, ugly, ugly thing. It's not even a human being. I guess that's basically what happens to Israeli soldiers when they're in. I mean, it can happen to any. I was watching this show about how Germans could take Jews, babies, pregnant women out in the woods and shoot them. How did they do that? And some people wouldn't. There were some people that weren't. They said, you're a sissy. You're not a good German. But they didn't get put in a camp. They were just, they made them clean the latrines, or they were made to feel that they weren't part of the group. A lot of these guys had to stay drunk all the time. And some people wouldn't do it. Other people would make them sick. Some people would they numbed themselves any way they could, and they just got through it. And then there were the truly evil people who really fucking enjoyed it. But I'm not taking this is just Germans. I guess it's true of the Jews too. You can take any person and put them in the right situation or the wrong situation, and you can turn that person into a monster. And I think people in Israel feel that they're put upon, that the whole world's against them. They are now, and they got to do this. But this is the thing I want to say before I get cut down. Because I think I posted this before. If America was really your friend instead of your little bitch, which we are, we'd be trying to restrain you because you're nuts. And we'd be saying, okay, you're a friend. You got a right to live there. You took some of their land. You did some bad things. Fine. Resolve that. But you're going apeshit. And it's like Don Corleone said, never hate your enemies. It affects your judgment. What they are doing is committing suicide, basically. They are being so brutal, and they are being so vicious, and they're being so cold, and Netanyahu is just blatant about this. He was corrupt, and they were going to put him in jail. So somehow he managed to orchestrate this. He, like a puppet master, they must have known. I mean, how could they not know that Hamas was planning? First of all, they funded Hamas. They didn't want to deal with Fatah. They wanted that land. So they needed an excuse. And a lot of the stuff about burned bodies and raped women and little dead babies, we got to look at, and this is where I got in trouble. We got to look into that. And I'll tell you why. Because there are people saying that they're not well trained. The IDF wasn't as slow to arrive as people say they were. They panicked. They were in tanks. They were in Apache helicopters, and they just fired. They just fired. What did this happen? What really happened? I don't know. The whole thing about raping and everything is to kind of get people upset so that they think, let's kill the Palestinians. It was a military operation. I'm not for it, and I'm not for Hamas. And if they were just killing Hamas, I wouldn't even be here. I wouldn't even be talking. But obviously they're being sloppy, and they're being sloppy on purpose. This is like we're just gonna remind them to never do this again. It'd be better if you just all went back to New York. And I think that's why I'm getting kicked off. It's like, really, I think I'm just going to say it, Israel's a failed social experiment. We should have known it wouldn't work. And the way Rabin, I think I remember when Rabin said, let's try to get along here. And they killed him. But that might have worked. You finally might have gotten some kind of a deal. And the people that are running Israel right now, don't want a deal. Netanyahu wants to be a dictator. He wants all that land. He wants to kick the Palestinians out. And he wants a war to deflect from the fact that he is so corrupt that they probably would have put him in jail if not for this. He created this crisis. Did he know this was going to happen? They funded Hamas deliberately. They wanted to create a monster so they had an excuse to do something like this. And it's disgusting. It's like Gaza is like the Warsaw Ghetto, and these poor people are just fighting for their lives, and they're being slaughtered. And that got me in trouble. Like I said, that's hate speech. That's hate speech. You don't accept the narrative that the little dead Jewish babies and the raped women. Do we even know that that's true? Or is that just some lie that Netanyahu government came up to justify this slaughter? The IDF, allegedly, I'm not saying I wasn't there, I don't know. The IDF came in with tanks and helicopters, and they panicked, and they just, not only did they shoot Hamas, they shot the hostages. That's why you have burnt hostages. That's why you have burnt kibbutz people and burnt babies and everything like that. But they had to separate. They weren't. Is this a Hamas? You can't even tell because everybody's barbecued. How did they burn those people? I'll tell you what it was. It was incendiaries. It was from an Apache helicopter. What did they have? What did the Hamas have to burn people like that? So you don't know, and I'm saying you don't know that. That might not even be true. I want to know the truth. And don't give me that guilt shit because I'm not buying it anymore. So I get a warning that it's hate speech because you can't criticize Israel. Well, I am. I'm old and I'm sick and I'm criticizing you. And it may be for your own good. If you're not going to pack up and go back to New York. Everybody knows that. Israel's there. But if you don't want to start World War III and you don't want every Arab nation and Russia and China and the Pakistanians at the bomb, and Iran has missiles. You take an Iranian missile and a Pakistani nuclear weapon, and boom, there goes Tel Aviv. You have pissed off everybody, and everybody's mad at us because can I borrow your shotgun? You're not going to do anything stupid with it, are you? Yeah, you killed you just went from house to house slaughtering people. All right, so someone threw a brick through your window. Someone beat up your daughter. I mean, it's not like Hamas are nice people or what they did was right. But I think that was orchestrated. I'm just going to say it. I think that Netanyahu knew it was coming. He antagonized Hamas. He knew what Hamas was. Someone that didn't want to negotiate. And he says, that's fine, because you know what? I don't want to negotiate either. So you think you're going to fight us? Well, no. We're just going to wipe you out. Wipe you out. And if the world doesn't like it, F them. We basically, and they brag about this. We own the United States. We control their Congress. There's no way they're going to stop. They're going to stop giving us aid. We'll just scream Jew hater as loud as we can. Well, yeah, now a lot more people hate Jews because of what Israel's doing. And this is the thing. This is the really, really unfortunate thing. You got some religious Jews that are still saying the whole Zionist thing is a heresy. It goes against the Torah. It goes against what God commanded us to remain in exile till the Messiah. It's just complete heresy. There's nothing to do with the Jewish religion. And then you got these young kids, these secular leftist Jews saying, you know what? I'm done with trying to defend Israel. This is wrong. like what I'm saying, the self-hating Jew. This is wrong. I don't like Hamas. Why would I like somebody that's bent on killing me? I don't like Hamas. But there's something fishy here. It's like, why does Hamas even exist? It's because they've been created, they've been propped up. They're a malformed thing that was created for a specific reason. Netanyahu and his right-wing band needed a demon, and they got it. There they are. So they grew it. They let it grow. They nurtured it. How could they not know that this attack was coming? And they manipulated it. Oh, look what they did. Now we get to wipe them out. That's my theory, that this whole thing was not staged, but was orchestrated in a very, very clever way. The Jews are much smarter than the Nazis were. The Nazis were like, oh, look, the Polish are invading. I mean, their propaganda was so fucking crude. It was just crude. How did those idiots? I mean, Germany was a sophisticated country. They had technology. They had the Messerschmitt 262. They had the V2 rocket. And these boneheads, these are just basically football hooligans. If you look at who the Nazis were, you can see them on the street. They're like the Trump supporters or I'm going to get in trouble here. The Black Lives. You get these the communist agitators. They're not particularly bright people, but they're bitter. They got a chip on their shoulder. They hate blacks. The blacks hate whites. We want something for nothing. Oh, look at that Jew. He's got a nice house. We'll kill him. We'll kill his family, and we'll take all that stuff. It's ours. It's that lustful. There's nothing moral about that. And I think Jews came out of the camps. They went to Israel, and they said, look, after the way we've been treated, we can do anything we want. But it's like a guy that gets chewed out at work and gets treated like shit. He comes home and he beats his wife up because he can pick on his wife, and his wife beats the kid, and that's basically the trauma. This is like a traumatized kid. Come out of the concentration camps, go down to Israel, look at these people that well, they treated us like they're acting like Nazis, and after the horrors of the death camps, maybe you could excuse it for a few years, but this is 80 years later. You gotta grow out of it. It's like if the Germans still had a big chip on their, and let's give it to the Germans. I mean, it's been 80 years. We've had to supervise them a little bit, but they've been very well behaved. And yeah, we sucked. The Holocaust was terrible. I don't know why we did it. We're sorry. And most of them are. I mean, some are still Nazis, but you talk to them. They're a bunch of pussy liberals now. Look at Merkel. They let all those Muslims in, and God, all the trouble that they've had there. But now it's swinging. Now Europe's swinging right wing. But isn't it ironic that all these right wing governments are all pro-Israel? Because Israel isn't a left-wing socialist country anymore like it was in 1948. It's really almost fascist. It really is. There's nothing liberal about, nothing progressive about anything that Israel does. It's a terrible place. And then they interview these people in Israel saying, yeah, let's just wipe out the Muslims. Shame on you for thinking that way. But this is the Jews are terrible people. No. Stop thinking that. We're all terrible people. The Germans did it. The French had the drug. You know what the French did? People that I like and admire so much. What the French did in Algeria to the Algerians before they pulled out, and they pulled out. They had to pull out, and they had to go back to France. The trouble is, there really isn't any place for Jews to go back to. That's the one argument that they have. Well, you got Long Island, but I don't know. Madagascar. The French could pack up and move back to France. But in the Algerian War, the unspeakable things the French military did to the Algerian people, unspeakable. Just they killed 1 million of them, and far worse than anything the Jews have done to the Palestinians. But you never hear about that, do you? You never hear about that. We all suck. Let's try to keep that in mind. That this isn't just something unique about the Jews, that they're just these terrible, evil people. We're all evil. They're just acting. You know what the Jews are guilty of? human nature. They're just doing what people do. They're tribalistic, they're bigoted, and they're genocidal. When we came over here, what did we do? We wiped out the Native Americans because for freedom, because we're Christians. And then we dragged the slaves over because we were going to make them. We all suck. Rwanda, the Hutus and the Tutus busy slaughtering each other. Or one got the upper hand and slaughtered a million of the other. I don't know which one's which. The kingdom of Dahomey, we talk about slavery, but they all bought it from that one king. That whole slave trade thing was run through Dahomey. So, I'm tired of this politically correct thing. You can't mention Muslim slavery or the fact that there were tribal kingdoms. There were kingdoms in Africa run by Africans that had this whole slave trade thing set up, and the white people went down there and says, hey, could you sell a couple of those to us? We could put them to work on a cotton farm. They go, how much you got? And that's so it's not just white people. So now that you hate me, and you're probably going to hunt me down and kill me for saying all these horribly politically incorrect things, I think I do owe somebody an apology. I think maybe apologies due for some of the, just really nasty things I say, because I don't follow Don Corleone's advice. You don't hate your enemies. We'll just use that word. It affects your judgment. When you've got an adversary, you should keep calm. And even if they're abusing you, you have to keep calm. And maybe I'm not smart enough to do that. I have to resort to vulgarities and trying to throw people off by being as insulting as they are. But you see these videos where Jews are calling Palestinians and even fellow Jews, they're like rats in a sewer. You're a rat in a sewer. That's the kind of talk you are calling Palestinians cockroaches. My God, that's what the Nazis said about you. You're vermin. You're rats. We're just going to wipe you out like you were rats in a wall or termites. So what do? You turn around and do it to somebody else. Shame on you. And somebody has to say that. Am I perfect? Do I have any right to criticize you? No. I'm a terrible person. But I'm going to do it anyways because somebody should. All right? But you're right. I'm sorry. And nobody should. The thing about this is, you're doing this to yourself. You really are. You're making your own enemies. People are getting I'm not the only one. Wait, is it? Oh my God. Is this? Oh no. God, boy, this thing just eats up batteries. There it is. Let me take a look here. What is this? All right. This computer's so old. All right, mouse. Oh, 94%. All right, okay, we're not going to change the battery then. I guess it was just the equipment's. It's not just the batteries. It's the equipment's old. It's like a 15-year-old. God only knows how old this mouse is. I think I had to have a new one. They do go bad after a while. I got a new one over there, but this one kind of works. So, all right, don't hate me. I'm sorry. I've said some things that I'm not supposed to say. I'm not who you think I am. All right. Although I guess that makes me kind of a traitor, Although I guess the Germans wouldn't really consider me one of them. But they call race traitors, and I guess if you don't go along with your tribe, you're a traitor. I'm not a Muslim. My ancestors were from Alsace. So the French don't consider us to be French, and the Germans don't consider us German. And there is a very large Jewish population there, and there always has been. So I'm just this guy who doesn't really like people or humanity because we're cruel and we're vicious and we do these stupid things like try to kill each other. And everybody thinks, well, they're doing it to us. Nobody ever tries to stop and say, look, it doesn't matter. The only hope that we have, I'm in my lucid moment here, I'm not in my crazy evil moment. The only hope that any of us have is if some of us calm down enough and say, look, we got to stop this killing. Can't we live in peace? Like that guy Rabin did, you know, and that worked out till some right-wing lunatic shot him. Fatah was willing to get along, so they had to put him on. That whole thing was orchestrated. But what I'm saying is, this whole thing in Israel is going to blow up and create World War III. And once it starts, you think that World War II was bad. I think people will blame the Jews for that, even though this is just human nature. Or maybe this is God. This is part of God's plan. Why not blame the Protestants? Because they've been trying to. They've had this They've been working to. What do they call it? A self-fulfilling product. A self-fulfilling prophecy. A self-fulfilling prophecy. The Protestants have created a self-fulfilling prophecy. Long before they were Zionist Jews, they were Zionist Protestants in England that wanted Jews. They wanted to find some way to get Jews back in Israel, so that Jesus would come and wipe out everybody except for 100,000 people. I don't know what they're planning on doing. God, if you're behind this, what are you thinking? Isn't this a little bit, you create all these people so you can incinerate them? It's like, I don't get it, but who am I, Who am I to question God? If this is your plan, fine. I think it's kind of messed up. It's kind of messy. But you know what? What are you going to do? You make these people, they're imperfect, they don't listen to you, they're not good. If you made us, this choice thing, the fact that we're born with original sin or whatever, whose fault is that? You make a little car and you say, oh, it's a car's fault. Well, you blame the designer, you blame the people on the line that put the car together. Car's just an inanimate object. We have free will, supposedly. But it's a lot more than that. I don't really believe that the free will is really a thing. I'm more of a determinist. We've got environment, we've got DNA. We're just these little bags of cells of emotion and experience and genetic programming. And so I think we're very limited in the choices that we make. So I'm gonna blame what an imperfect product you created. Really? What were you thinking? So you're just gonna wipe us all out? Maybe that's, considering how messed up most of the world is, maybe that's not such a bad idea after all. I just don't know why you couldn't have made a better product. And then we would avoid the hell and the suffering and everything like that. And everybody be Switzerland or Singapore or Denmark or whatever. Or Belgium. They make nice chocolate, and evidently the median wealth income is very high there. So that's got to be a successful society. The fact that, we're the richest, the Swiss are actually the richest, but the median, that's the mean, that's the average house. And the average house is weighing rich, poor. The average isn't real. It isn't real because all the wealth's at the top. What's real is the median. You look at how what's left of the middle class, or how the bulk of the population actually lives. And that isn't Switzerland or the United States. That's Belgium. Or the French. The French do a good job too, believe it or not. The French have I can't figure that out, what the French are doing, because they have such high taxes. Belgium too, but the average French, when I say the average French person, I don't mean how a real French person who has a job and has a career and has a home lives. And they've got good savings. They're actually wealthier than the Germans. How did they do that? Let me take a look here. Let me look. I can tell you some things before we go. Before they permanently ban me for hate speech. Am I a bad? If there's anybody watching, am I a bad person, or am I just saying things that everybody believes but are really afraid to say? I don't want to be a bad person. I don't want to say bad things. I don't want to be hateful. But this sounds like an excuse. I can't help it. They just slip out. I think that's what bipolar is, or whatever. you just turn into you turn into a monster. I think that's why people believe in demons. You get angry and you turn into the Incredible Hulk, and there's just something goes wrong. There's something wrong in the brain. Something wrong in the brain, and it's not even me anymore. I look at it and I go, my mom was like that too. What did I do? Why did I say that? What is wrong with me that I would? And that's a terrible thing to say. Let's say net worth. Which nation has the highest net worth? 10 richest nations in the world. Oh, this is. I don't want actors. I don't want the richest actors. I don't care about. Which nation has the highest medium net worth? Okay. Visualizing top countries. Oh, I guess I want to keep these. Okay. So the global wealth per person. You can't see this, but I can. Oh, France. See, France is doing pretty good there. Pretty good. In 2023, the UBS Global Report compares average median wealth across select markets to reveal the widening gap between the world's richest and poorest countries. Mean average, median. Okay. Switzerland, U.S. Ooh, okay, so this is mean. The mean is taking total wealth and dividing it by, 300 million or whatever. And yeah, the U.S. does pretty good there. But the thing about the mean is it's not real. Median is real. Median is a real person. You take a real average person in the United States, and he isn't worth $500,000. He's worth 107. You take the real average Swiss person, and he's not worth 685,000. He's worth 167. Well, Sweden's not doing too good. Canada. Wow, Canada does pretty good. The average Canadian is worth more than the average American because they have a more equitable society. The Canadians do. The Dutch, yeah. Wow. Look at Belgium. Talk about equal. That is unbelievable. That is unfreaking believable. Norway's even not that good. Ireland's got a problem too. South Africa. Whoa. Okay, yeah. Okay. Countries by average wealth. Median. Yeah, median is what a real. Okay, what is median? Let me try to tell you what median is. Here's how wealth shifts when looking from a median wealth per adult basis. Belgium ranks the highest, climbing past Australia for the first time. High home ownership levels and elevated home prices have led household wealth to rise above other European countries. Median wealth in the U.S. stood at 107,000, falling to 12th place. So as much as I can figure, what median means is average. Mean means you take everybody's income and then you divide by 5 or whatever. Say there are 5 people, and one guy's really rich. So the number is high because of this really rich guy, and then there's a really poor guy. But if you look at the people in the middle, say the 3 people in the middle, that's the real number. So that's what you're doing with the median. Is you're not looking at the very rich person who throws everything off, and you're not looking at the poor people living on the street begging and doing fentanyl. You look at the average working class schmo and how much he's managed to save. The average Belgian's doing pretty freaking good here. Pretty good. But see, that's how you know. If you look at a real person with a real income, because the average, if you're looking at the mean, isn't a real person. It's like you take one rich person and saying that his income is dispersed among everyone, and it's not. He owns everything, and everybody else is dirt poor. So the country might look rich, but that's kind of Ireland. They're not really. Evidently, Germany's that way too. The Canadians are that's a very equal country, and so is Belgium, Netherlands. Yeah, I think there's a mortgage thing going on. Let's save this because this is very interesting. It's visualizing the top countries by wealth per person. It's a visual capitalist. Yeah, because my special effects aren't really there. Visual capitalist. So you can have people in Belgium aren't poor. The average person in Belgium actually lives better. The average person in France lives better. And why is that? Because a real person in those countries actually is worth is worth more than the average American. There are a lot of rich Americans, which skew everything that make us look a lot richer. Well, as a country, that's our wealth, but it's all in the hands of a few people. Obviously, Cuba and China and Vietnam or North Korea, so state socialists with where they have no free enterprise. Those countries don't. Those countries are dirt poor. But the ones that are good preserve a market system and is basically running on capitalism. But they tweak things. They have high taxes and they have programs, universal health. They try to do things to promote wealth, not just among a few rich people, but among the average people. And if you want to look at societies that do that, you're not going to look at. Is that socialism? I think it'd be distributed. It's Australia. It's Belgium. What's number 3 on the list? Because I was. Is it New Zealand? Because New Zealand would really surprise me. Norway, Singapore, Australia. Australia, even average is pretty freaking high. Okay, that's average. Now we got the median, like the real. We're looking at real people and their real money. They live on a street, and that's how much money they're worth. It's not like this hypothetical average where some rich guy that's a billionaire and everybody else is starving and living in a tent. That's our inequity was why America looks a lot richer than it really is, because all the money's at the top. Belgium has the highest median wealth per adult. It's about $250,000. Australia is not far behind, not very far behind at all. New Zealand is 193, so that's quite a bit behind. Then you got Denmark, then you got Switzerland, then you got the UK, and you got France down here, and the Netherlands, because I guess the Netherlands has got a problem because of mortgages. They're not homeless and living. They got a housing problem, but a lot of them, the way the Dutch laws are written, you can get a mortgage, and a lot of people that get mortgages shouldn't have mortgages, and then you can't kick them out of their house, and they're having trouble paying their mortgage back. But tough luck. So these people are tremendously in debt. But they're still living a good life. They got a car and a house. They're just paying off their mortgages. I guess the Belgians have the reason the Belgians are doing so well is they actually had to pay their mortgage off. Germany, a lot of people in Germany don't own their own home. It's very low. They rent, so they don't have that. I mean, most people, the biggest asset they have is their house. That's their wealth, their house. And evidently, who's in? Oh yeah, the EU, Brussels. So maybe that's why there's so much. Who knows? All right, this has gone on long enough. If you're Jewish, I'm sorry I said the terrible things. I don't hate you. I'm not going to do anything to you. If you support Israel, I got to be honest with you. I got a real problem with you. It's like me saying, you know what? My ancestors were from Germany, and I think during World War II, if only we would have fought a better war, we could have taken over and we'd rule the world and fuck everybody else. I really, maybe I'm wrong about this, and maybe I do owe a Zionist an apology, but it really seems to me that if you're pro-Zionism, there is precious little between what you believe and calling people traitors if they disagree with you. There's precious little between you and a German national, a Nazi, a fucking Nazi, who's willing to commit genocide. To see what the Poles, the communists are, They use the same argument. The Jewish communists we have to go and kill them all because if we don't, they'll kill us. Poor Rosa Luxemburg. I mean, Karl Marx. I mean, Lenin. Stalin wasn't Jewish. Who was the other guy that did kill a lot? Oh, he was every leftist hero, Leon Trotsky. When Leon Trotsky was head of the Red Army, he killed more people than Hitler. That's just a fact. He killed so many people. He was not. I mean, he looks like a little nerdy intellectual type, but he did a lot of killing. I mean, so did Napoleon. But I mean, he was committed. I mean, these people were committed to changing the world, and the way they were going to change the world was. I don't know if he did it because he had a score to settle, but I think that was part of it too. We got a score to settle. We've been treated like shit, and now it's our turn. Problem is, this too shall pass. It's not like you're not going to be on top forever. What's that saying? Always be nice to people on the way up because you might meet them on the way back down. And we all need to learn that lesson. You kick a dog, you make the dog mean. So maybe I'm talking to a mean dog here. This is the calm me that's been doing the Buddhist chanting and everything like this. I'm sorry. And what I really want is just to get along with everybody. And what I really want for Gaza, I'm sorry. This whole argument that Hamas made you kill babies and children, you got to find some other way. Kill Hamas all you want. Kill Hamas. I don't care. Kill Hamas. I'm not one of these kooky college kids that's been brainwashed that thinks, you know what, Hamas, they're heroes. Che Guevara, they're heroes. We'll just put these people in charge of the world and everything will be wonderful. I'm old enough to realize, we tried that before and there are just mountains of bodies everywhere. Mountains of bodies. Look in Venezuela, people eating out of the garbage cans, killing rats for food. But I was a kid once and I fell for this crap too. If one is not a socialist at 20, you don't have a heart. If you're still a socialist at 40, you don't have a brain. I don't know. I'm not that bright. But this is just what I want to say. I think if Israel wants to survive as a country, with any respect, not just with respect with other people, because I don't think you care, and maybe it doesn't matter. If you want to survive, period, without having the Turks or the Iranians or the Pakistanians, having everybody just rain nuclear weapons down on you, because you're a little country, and Russia's right there on Syria's side. You got all these countries. China, whose side is China on? If you want to survive, you're going to have to find some other way to deal with this problem. Find some other way to take Hamas out. Kill Hamas all you want. That's my opinion. But find some nice way to do it. Don't just bomb hospitals and leave dead baby parts lying all around. Oh look, and as far as this thing that went on with the rapings and the incinerated bodies, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm just going to be honest with you. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize. I don't buy it. I heard this guy named Scott Ritter, and God, did he get put in jail for fiddling with a 15-year-old girl? See, I think that was a setup too, because he's against it. I think they set up people. I don't know. Maybe he did go after a 15-year-old girl. I don't know. That's kind of creepy, though. It's like Roman Polanski and Jeffrey Epstein and Woody Allen. I don't think that was true with Woody Allen, but who knows? I don't know. Anthony Weiner, playing with his Winky with this little baby right next to him. That's not right. You can't dismiss that. Like Roman Polanski, he was a great film director, but that's no excuse for drugging and forcibly sodomizing a 13-year-old girl. That's not right. Oh well, I'm famous. I get to do these things. And I guess Roman Polanski's other excuse was, I escaped the Holocaust. I had to hide in toilets. I was traumatized. So what if I rape a few shikses? That's not good. That's not a good argument. Do you have any idea how bad that makes not just Roman Polanski look, but some people are going to be prejudiced and say it's just, the collective guilt thing, which is terrible. And then you do the same thing to the Palestinians. They're all like that. You got to find some other way to deal with Hamas. Kill them all you want, as far as I'm concerned. I don't consider them heroes. I can understand why you'd want to kill Hamas. It's like why we wanted to kill Osama. Osama wasn't some romantic character. He wasn't George Washington. I want to say Che Guevara, but evidently Che Guevara wasn't even Che. Che Guevara was very racist. He said some very racist thing about black people, and he killed a lot of people too. He was not. All these revolutionaries did. I mean, you have a revolution, you're going to end up killing lots of people. So, and what did Cuba? Cuba's a basket case. You want the world to look like Cuba? You want the world to look like Switzerland? Evidently, you want the whole world to look like Belgium or Australia. That's where the average person, not just a few rich people own everything, but where the average guy goes off to work, he makes enough money where he can save, put it in a pension program, and buy a house. And when he's 60 years old, he's not destitute. He's got something. That's not America. America's a rich country, but it's all tied up with the rich, and the average person's in debt. But that's another deal. My advice to my not all Jews are Zionists. There are a lot of them that are really against Israel, but the ones that you are, I think I'm going to give you a little advice, and it's not hateful because I'm in my normal mode. This is the person that I am most of the time. The other person I would not let talk because he'd embarrass me. He's the one that slips out with the comments. You see him. You can find him on the internet. He's not a nice person, but you're not talking to him. You're talking to the other me, the nice me. My advice to my Zionist brothers and sisters is, if you want to save the state of Israel, you've got to find another way than killing civilians or stealing their land. You have to. There's the way you're doing it, you're committing suicide. This is not good for anyone, and especially it's not going to end well for you. Trust me. And I'm saying this as the nice person in me. I don't know if I believe in dual personalities because I'm very aware of everything that I do. It's like after I do it, I go, why the fuck did I do that? What's wrong with me? What is wrong with me? I'm a terrible person. This is the person that says, I'm a terrible person. I'm a terrible person. Why did I say these terrible things? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on in my brain. It's just like I can't control it. I can control my actions, but sometimes I can't control my mouth. I think I have a friend like that too. Once the point you get to action and doing something stupid, your good person or your rational brain kicks in and goes, all right, now you're not just shooting off your mouth. Now you're going to do something fucking stupid. So I'm taking control again. You are going to stop. You are going to stop, and you're not going to do anything stupid because that's going to really lead to something. This is America. You're allowed to shoot your mouth off and say any stupid thing, and maybe I shouldn't think that because you really can't. Everything you say has a consequence. That coconut stuff really did a nice job on my hair. I wish See, I'm a nervous person. I've got these holes in my beard because I'm like, my whole life I'm like picking at hair and there are patches missing that I pulled out because of nerves. I guess there are people that do that. They pull out their hair and eat it. I never did that with this, but I got like I scratched my, and then I've got the diabetic skin. I'll be dead soon anyway, so don't even waste your time. I can barely walk. It's why I spend so much time on the computer. Oh my God, I was going to buy some groceries. Anyways, my advice to you is never hate your enemies. It affects your judgment. The whole thing about a good friend, if we want to be a good friend to Israel, we got to realize Israel's out on a Friday night. It got in a fight with the Palestinians. Palestinians took a swing at him, broke his nose, and now Israel's gone apeshit and is busting up the whole bar. You know, looking for the guy who did that, his relatives, his priest, anybody that might have ever been nice to him. And he's got his gun out or his baseball bat or a knife, and he wants you to help him. Help me beat these people up. And where we are, America is. But I'll tell you what a good friend would do to some lunatic that's lost his mind and is just overkill, in overkill mode. And he's kicking people and kicking this guy when he's down. And you'd pull him off and say, all right, you know what? He did a bad thing. He shouldn't have swung on you. He shouldn't have grabbed your girlfriend's tit or whatever set you off. That was wrong. But what you're doing is just so disproportionate and so nuts. All right, he's down, all right? You got him down. You really want to kill him? You really want to kill all of his friends in the bar? Really? You think you can do that with no consequence? That no one's going to notice that? Because I had a friend like that. He had such a temper, an Irish temper. He was kind of mobbed up too. I'm not going to mention any names because he'd probably kill me. He was a smart guy and I liked him. He was probably a psychopath because he could be so charming. But the reason why I liked him as a friend was I didn't agree with him and he scared me, but I respected his intellect. I just thought, how many intelligent people do you know? How many talented or artistic? I knew artists too that were horrible, horrible people. But how many people do you know that are really exceptional? It's kind of like a pleasure and an honor to be around them. I mean, maybe you can learn some stuff from them, but what you can learn what not to do too. Even very smart people can do very, very stupid things because they're not in control of their emotions. Never hate your enemies; it affects your judgment. I've seen some very bright people do really stupid things because they had no control of their emotions. And one of them is me. But this is the sane me. This is the rational me you're dealing with because there are a couple of them in here. Yeah, I don't think you've ever seen the babbling, really effeminate me that's in there too. I'm kind of trying to be the cool guy because it's like we're all actors, but I'm telling you, there's more than one person up here. It's not multiple personality. I don't know how it works. I don't know how the brain really works, but I know that there's more than one person up here. Because I remember, you ever heard someone say, that's not me? I don't know why I did that. Like that guy, I'll give you an example. That guy, Michael Richards, was it, when he was on stage and someone was heckling him and he said some really terrible things about the Ku Klux Klan and he used the N word? Or not Mel Brooks, Mel Gibson. He got drunk and started going off on the Jewish cop. I don't know who Mel Gibson is or if he's really that hateful. But I mean, there was some Jewish comedian, Shecky Green, said, you know what? Mel Gibson was drunk and he was out of his mind and he was. People do stupid things when they're drunk and they say stupid things when they're drunk. Sometimes we just aren't ourselves and then we feel bad afterwards. And it's a stupid excuse. I shouldn't do it, but I do. I've done it my whole life, and I don't even. Do I do it for attention? Do I do it to like? Why do people kick dogs? Why do people beat their wives? You get angry and you do terrible things, and then you go, I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry. But I think in my rational moment, what my rational mind, not the frustrated, angry mind is, if let's say for the sake of argument, and I don't claim to be a friend of Israel, but I can see people that are saying this. If you really want to save Israel from itself and from destruction, which it's in the process, you think, oh, well, they're winning. Dude, there are 10 million people. Alexa, what's the population of Israel?
In 2023, the population of Israel is 9.17 million people.
10 million people against the world. Alexa, how many people live in the Arab world?
The world population is estimated to be around 7.35 billion people.
Alexa, what's the population of Arab countries?
There are 22 Arab countries in the world, and together they have a population of approximately 456 million people.
All right.
Egypt is the most populous Arab country, with a population of 109 million residents.
So you're looking at this. You're kind of outnumbered here. And Alexa, what is the Muslim population of the world? Let's go by religion now.
According to another Amazon customer, the number of Muslims in the world is about 1.8 billion. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. So you're outnumbered 180 to 1 there.
Thanks for your feedback.
Oh, you're quite welcome. So, hello, in the Pakistan. Alexa, what's the population of Pakistan?
The population of Pakistan in 2023 is 240 million people.
Alexa, does Pakistan have the nuclear bomb?
Yes, Pakistan possesses nuclear weapons.
Do you see where I'm going here? Do you see where I'm going? You're a little tiny country and you're pissing off these people you think are this is the one thing about Hamas I gotta hand it to. And please please, I don't admire their ideology. It's like a lot of people say, and maybe that's an excuse. You had to hand it to the Germans. Pound for pound, the German was the best soldier. He might have been the best equipped, but he was the best trained, and he was fierce. He took on the whole world. The weapons that the Nazis had the technology was first rate. You had to admire them for that. Israel, you have to admire Israel. I mean, the Air Force. At one time, the Israeli military was really good. From some of the research I've done now not so much. They haven't been a war in a while, and a lot of these conscripts, they're really not trained. They don't have any war experience. Invading, beating up Palestinian girls, or old men, bullying little kids and breaking their arms. They're capable of doing that, but actually fighting. Hamas is giving his. I mean, the fact that they took on Israel like this, that took chutzpah. The cruel and sadistic things that they did, I can't justify that, and I'm not even going to try. I mean, some people will. They're fighting back. They're a liberation organization. The Jews deserved it for taking. Nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves to be. That's the problem. Just trying to find a rationalization for all this cruelty. There was no justification for Hamas. You can't take Hamas prisoner and rehabilitate them and let them think about what they did. That's not an option. Israel is kind of on the ropes here. So kill Hamas. But here's my advice, and this is important because I'm right and you're wrong. This whole thing about collective punishment, not only is it morally wrong, it's stupid. You're committing suicide. Have you seen these protests all over the world? Oh, it's just propaganda. Well, here's the thing. They're winning the propaganda war. I mean, I know you're trying to stop it so people can't see it, but you're just slaughtering women and children and saying, "Oh, look, Hamas, that's their." You know what it was in Arabic? It was a calendar. You're lying to people, and then people aren't going to believe anything you say, about the raped women or the burnt children. Is that even true? I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not. See, that's the thing. Now that I'm calmed down, I would like to know. I would like an objective source to tell me what's going on there, because I heard, and maybe I'm stupid for repeating this, and I'm asking for some kind of. This is why I get censored. I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying, could somebody credible please tell me whether what I heard was misinformation or whether it is actually true that the IDF went in with helicopters and tanks and shot not only Hamas, but they were shooting at the hostages, and that there was a lot of collateral damage, and these burnt bodies and these decapitated babies and these burn up bodies. I guess there are like first-hand reports that women were raped. And that's just that literally physically made me sick. I was in the toilet throwing up when I heard that because I was just so angry. I was like, yeah, let Israel do whatever it wants. And then 2 or 3 days later, after they were just slaughtering the Palestinians, it's like this idiot brain of mine that's just like not logical and is all emotional goes, now everything's turned. Now my sympathy lies with the little dead babies lying on the ground. You've been doing that for 3 months. How long did that attack against you go on? That it was like first it was 1,200 dead. How long did that take? Day after day, you're just slaughtering people. I mean, if you would have done that for 4 or 5 days, I hate to say this, you might have gotten away with it, but you just keep doing it over and over. You're kicking this almost dead body. This is not going to end well for Israel because it was probably orchestrated. Netanyahu had some nefarious plan. He's not a stupid man. He's just evil. And I think he manipulated, and Hamas are not good people either. They've manipulated the Palestinians. You've got these two ruling groups that are not good people. And they've just created this shitstorm of suffering and misery. And there's no one left to kind of like pull these people apart like a Jimmy Carter, Did Clinton do that? I mean, or Clinton, just saying, you know what, you two, break it up, shake hands, calm down, let's talk this over. There's nobody fucking left to do that, and there needs to be. There needs to be saying, all right, you know what, that was wrong that they did that, just calm down. What the hell were you, all right, he stole your land, okay. You know, you both have beefs against each other. You know, it's not like there's a good guy and a bad guy here. But I'll tell you what's wrong. It's killing all these innocent people on both sides. That has got to stop. We're not going to do that anymore. There's no referee. There's no adult in the room. And I think that's the failure of American policy is we're just saying, you know what? Israel has a right to defend itself. This is not self-defense. Killing Hamas is self-defense, and that's fine. You're not doing that. You say, look, the naked guy over there, he was in Hamas. You know, the dead baby there, that little dead baby would have grown up and been Hamas. Oh, the dead female baby, that would have grown up and created little Hamas babies. So that's what Hitler said about, we got to kill the Jewish kids because they would have grown up and been the Rothschilds or, you know, Karl Marx, or little Jews grow up to be big Jews, so we gassed them. Oh my God, when I heard those Nazis saying that, I remember, because I guess they said some things like that, but I remember right down to the marrow of my bones thinking, how could anybody be so unspeakably
This is
cruel?
a reminder. My own farts smell okay.
See what I have to live with here?
This is a reminder. My own farts smell okay.
There's somebody in my head that does these things. It's not me. It's not, well, maybe it is, I don't know, but it's like it's like there are two people living up here, and I've got to apologize for I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. But this is the thing. Let's look at this from, we all want what's best for the people of Israel. I actually feel bad. I would like something good. I would like equally for what's best for the Palestinian people. You know, you say, oh, well, they're terrorists. Oh, they're terrorists. Well, look in the fucking mirror, man. You know, in 1948, when Israel was declared, the reason why the Arabs got upset was Jews were about 40% of the population, and they were given 60% of the land. And they said, what? Are you crazy? It's our land. Well, why should we give you all this land? And that wasn't enough. They took 70% after the war because they won. They won. You won a war. You know, good for you. You know who else won a war? Or they lost the war. But they took Poland. Or if you're in the South, you know, we won. You won the war. That's like Nazi thinking. You know, all right, well, you won the war. So I guess that makes you right. I guess if a flash mob breaks into my store, my jewelry store, steals all my stuff, and you say, well, you know, you should have been better armed. You won a war. Oh, aren't you special? You were very good at stealing land. It's like we did with the Indians. Yeah, we beat them. And we slaughtered most of them. There's nobody to give the land back to, for Christ's sake. And I think that's what you're thinking. If we kill them all, we don't have to worry about a right of return, because there won't be anybody to return. Think about what you're saying. I mean, this is now. It's not 100. This isn't history we're talking about. This is you doing these horrible things now. It isn't Christian. And I don't think it's Jewish either. It's like the real, like this, my rabbi, Jacob Shapiro. In the Jewish religion, there's no stealing, there's no killing, there's no raping, there's no excuse for any of these things. And the Bible says that until the Messiah returns, there's no Israel. It's heretical to think of things in those terms. Judaism, the Jews are not a race. They're not a nationality. They're a religion, like Roman Catholic. And the Roman Catholics used to have a country. It was called the Papal States. Now the Catholics have the Vatican. That's their country. It's like 5 square blocks in Rome, full of old pedophiles in dresses. I think I said that out loud. I don't care. Do the Protestants? I mean, in a way, the Protestants do have a country. It's called the United States of America, and that's going to get me in trouble too. But we live in a Protestant culture, whether you're Jewish or you're Catholic or you're Muslim. If you live in the United States and you've assimilated into our culture, you have assimilated into a Protestant culture, and that's not necessarily good, or not a specific type of Protestantism. Calvinism. Well, my family came over. When I talked to my family in the Netherlands, um, I don't know the ones in France because that was 200. I don't even know who they are. We've been gone so long that's not even a thing. But I could actually talk to the people in the Netherlands. I thought they were communists. Well, they weren't, but they were Christian Democrats. They're very left wing on economic issues, well, by American standards, and they were moderately conservative. I mean, I don't think they believed in abortion. They didn't believe in prostitution or all that stuff going on in Amsterdam. Homosexuality. They had more of a judge not lest ye be judged. You know, like that thing where Jesus says, "Do I condemn you?" But they weren't for living like that. They do drink a lot, but that was a different kind of Protestant. I mean, but they're Calvinists too. But Lutherans have a different attitude about money. But the United States was very Calvinist, and they believed that in predestination, and if you're rich, that's because God wanted you to be rich. God was showing you His favor, and it wasn't like in Lutheranism. And I saw this, although they weren't Lutherans, which is confusing because they were Calvinists. It is profoundly immoral to be rich and just hoard money. It's okay to be comfortable, but if you've got extra money, you should be giving that away to poor people. And maybe they're on welfare and they don't work, or maybe they're immoral, but that doesn't matter. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible says that you are to share. If someone needs a coat, you give them a coat. If someone needs a house, you give them a house. If someone's hungry, you give them food. I mean, you don't give them a bottle of booze and heroin or whatever, but maybe you suggest to them that they stop drinking and they go to Alcoholics Anonymous, or you drive them to drug treatment facility. You have a duty to help the weak of the world out. Of course, it's their own fault. That's not the point. It's your fault if you don't help them. Now, that isn't American Christianity. American Christianity is you lecture people, you judge them, you live a good life, and if other people don't, fuck them. God's going to send them to hell. It's not your problem. That is not what the Bible says. It is your problem. You are your brother's keeper. You're supposed to be helping fallen people. You're supposed to be helping people stand the straight and narrow. Don't do drugs. Don't look at the dirty pornography. Don't beat your wife. Go to work. If you're, I'll help you. You need shoes. You know, and everybody should work. You shouldn't just give people things. I agree that that's not good. What it did to me. I had problems. I did work. I tried to work so hard. I worked so much that I paid so much into Social Security that they kicked me off of SSI decades ago. They says you're not eligible for this program anymore. I thought that was it. I'm dead. I'm just going to starve on the street. And they gave me $300 extra a month. And I said, well, what's this for? And he said, at some point, did you try to get off of SSI? And I said, I tried desperately. I worked so hard, and every time I'd have a nervous breakdown, and I'd end up back in a mental hospital. Then my dad died. I come from a relatively affluent family. He didn't leave me anything because he knew I'd be off to Vegas with like showgirls and champagne, but I doubt I'll ever be homeless again. That guy was so nice to me, and I think it's because he knew there was something really wrong. I don't think he shouldn't have blamed himself. It's like my mom's. It's like somebody said. It's like there's just something in your brain. You're kind of like born with some chemical imbalance, or some part of your brain doesn't work right. I went to law school. I tried so hard, and every time I ended up back in they gave me shock treatment. And the last time my dad said, "You know what? I think it's early retirement for you. You've been banging your head against a brick wall for so many years. You tried. You tried." But when I go haywire, it would affect everybody because, trust me, that demon would come out because I'd be under pressure. And he was not a nice person. He made life absolutely miserable for everybody around him. So I try to remain calm. I try to remain calm now. I'm at the end of my life. I know that. I can't keep. I've had to I've had to quit drinking. I've had to quit sugar. I've had to quit red meat. I have to. I try to exercise. I I did quit drinking. I quit all illegal drugs 25 years ago. I've made some progress. I'm having a little trouble with the ice cream though, the Ben and Jerry's. That's going to kill me. And I think that's what does it. My blood sugar. I mean, it used to be cocaine. Now it's sugar. It's usually when I'm all hopped up on Ben and Jerry's that I start going on these radical rants and start hating everybody. It's not right to hate anyone for any reason, and there are just so many excuses. I think I would just say in a moment of rationality from listening to a lot of experts. There's some guy, what's his name, Woltschmier, or what's his name? I don't want to quote Scott Ritter because he's a child molester. But he's a smart guy. I mean, it's like Roman Polanski. Yeah, he's a child molester, but he made some really good movies: Revulsion, Rosemary's Baby, Chinatown. Let's face it, Picasso was a wonderful artist. He was a horrible person. Okay, Hezbollah ups offensive. Yeah, and then you got to deal with Hezbollah, who is you see, you think you're being tough as being the way to, but you're gonna stir up a hornet's nest. This is you're gonna have to find. I know it's hard, but you're gonna have to find. Hijack Judaism. Okay, here he is. Jacob. This is the guy I listen to. Jacob Shapiro.
Rabbi Shapiro.
This is my rabbi. I like him.
In Queens, New York.
I don't hate him. I listen to
Rabbi
Rabbi Shapiro, and he tells me what. I try to because calm my brain down.
19 years old, and he has a fourth book, which is due to come out this next week.
What really happened in Israel on October 7th?
Best known for his
Do I even want to watch that?
Defending the historic Orthodox Jewish position that rejects the concept of Jewish nationalism and therefore opposes Zionism and does not recognize the concept of a Jewish state. He has represented this position.
Okay, well, that's basically where I'm coming from. I don't listen to a bunch of Muslims. Yeah, let's kill all the Jews. It's like I listen to Jacob Shapiro say, you know what? The reason why Israel is not doing so well is it's because dude, it's heresy. It goes against the Jewish Bible, the Torah. It goes against what God told us to do. He told us to stay away and be good citizens of the world and repent, and we could have our country back when the Messiah comes. Now, if you're a Jew and you don't believe that Jesus Christ was the Messiah, I guess I'm a Christian. I guess I should believe that, right? Some Christian. I mean, look here. Russian women is running for president. That's not it. Dream scenario. What's the heck is the guy's name? Automatic Revolver. Oh, Taylor Tomlinson. She's so funny. I really love her. She's bipolar too. But she's funny. Whatever happened to Ali Wong? I guess she's old now. Oh, Arnold, are you in the hospital? What the hell happened? Oh, he punched her. Okay, I don't want to watch that. All right, okay. That looks really sick. Maybe I shouldn't watch this stuff because a lot of it's just horrible. Cop crashes into bar, arrests owner. Seriously? Oh my God. Is that a hamburger or someone's toe? I'm looking for this guy, but I can't see him. That's an air rifle. Ooh, former Miss America goes viral.
You can tell a lot from a wine just by smelling.
Oh, she's an addict.
Oh.
Who is this guy? Okay, let's punch this in because maybe I'll find him. Political experts accused of anti-Semitism. Because he's not really. He just won't repeat all this stuff that we should give him. Israel this money, saying like, how is this in our national interest? Well, Kanye West obviously is. Okay, Jon Stewart's an anti-Semite. Elon Musk is an anti-Semite. They mean no Jews. Israel president's global anti-Semitism warning. Elon Omar, Ocasio-Cortez, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Everybody's an anti-Semite. Oh, Ian Bremmer. This might be it. We might find him here.
You can't have this conversation on CNN or Fox. You can't do it because if you are only talking about how the Israeli Defense Forces are responsible for these brutal killings, or if you're only talking about what Hamas did on October 7th and you don't talk about the broader context, right? You are absolutely not understanding what's happening in this war right now.
I watch too much of this stuff. I can't find him, but he's an old conservative guy. Oh, and who is there? Are a bunch of Joseph Napolitano. There are a bunch of libertarians that have said, you know what, like that Indian dude. He says, you know what, I'm for Israel, go Israel, but we shouldn't fund them anymore. That's not what America should be doing. And that would be fine with me. Israel, do whatever you want, but we're not going to pay for it anymore. You make up your own mind. I think they would come begging and maybe would listen to us. They're like a spoiled kid that won't listen, and we keep helping them out every time they get themselves into trouble. But I think if Israel keeps this up, they're going to cause a world war. They're going to drag us into it. This is not in the national interest of the United States. I'm beginning to become an isolationist. I'm kind of starting to think that maybe the libertarians, at least on foreign policy, are right. We guard our borders. We do something about that border hemorrhage. I mean, we're not helping the world by letting like anybody and his brother flood across that border unskilled, but just with their hands out. Maybe they'll work, maybe they'll steal, maybe they'll sell drugs. God only knows. You know, it's a problem. And most immigrants are very law-abiding. I realize that, but they need it's like gun owners. They need to be vetted. You can't just let anybody have a gun, and you can't just let anybody into the country. There's got to be some controls, people. But as far as our international policy, maybe we shouldn't have one. Maybe we should tell the Ukrainians, you know what? We've given you $100 billion already. You gave it your best shot. We can't keep doing this. In Israel, it's like, you know what? You don't listen to us. You make us look bad. You slaughter innocent people. Maybe you could have done this a little more quiet. You could have found some more surgical way to take Hamas out. And let me emphasize that I'm not one of these people that thinks that Hamas are a bunch of freedom fighters. I had a very romantic vision of it. I used to kind of be in the Irish Republic, and it's funny for someone that's maybe that's guilt for the Battle of the Boyne. But I worked for Irish. I did a lot of shit for the Irish Republican Army, and I feel no remorse. The British shouldn't be there. Ireland for the Irish. Get the fuck out. That's a tiny little island. The Irish don't want to take over the world. They just want their island back. And maybe I've got a beef with the Catholic Church, but that's their country. Ireland belongs to the Irish. The British won the war. No, they didn't. And I'll tell you why the British didn't win the war. Because the Irish never gave up. And the British tried to genocide them. The British tried to starve them out and made them come out, that's why there was the Irish diaspora. The Irish were kicked out of their own country because of poverty and because they weren't even allowed to practice their own religion. The British were horrible to the Irish. But the Irish never gave up, and they never quit fighting. And eventually, even though Britain was this powerful nation, they couldn't kill the Irish, and they couldn't beat them, and they had to leave. Israel's a little bit different. Because there's no place for you to pack up and go back to except for maybe New York City and Miami Beach, Florida. But that's your country. but it's like Jacob Shapiro says, being a Jew is a religion. It's not a nationality. It's not a football team. It's not a race. They're Asians that are Jews. They're African. They're Ethiopians that are black Ethiopians that are Jews. They're Russians that are Jews. They're Sephardics that are Jews. Dark Jews. They're Jews with blonde hair and blue eyes. I've seen them. Amy Schumer, right? It's a religion. And according to that religion, the Messiah has not returned, so the Jews are forbidden to stay. And you're confused because a bunch of Protestants, evangelical Protestants, and there's nobody more evil than those Protestants. Everybody says that the Jews are money grubbers. Being raised Protestant, I know that there's nobody more obsessed with making money and looking down their noses at people that don't have it than Protestants. That's the Protestant work ethic is what made this country so great, but it also made it not so great. It made it unequal and cruel. Why Belgium has a higher medium net wealth than we're very unequal. We're not even worth what the French are worth. Not on average. I'm talking about real income. I mean, I'm talking about median. I mean, a real person in a real house. I'm not talking about some skewed net worth because a handful of people like Elon Musk own everything. I'm talking about real people with real money in the bank. Australia is good too, evidently too. That's kind of who we could be. They don't work as hard as they're very hardworking people, but they save and they've got these pension programs, and they're wealthy. It's not even a matter of quality of life. They're worth. They're worth. They work less, but I don't know who they save. I don't know how they do it, but they don't go into debt, and the average net worth. Well, no, not the average. I hate this. The median net worth of the average French person is considerably higher than the median net worth of Americans, even though that their incomes are lower. It's because the way their capitalism is, it's not socialism, although the socialists ran France for many years. Their version of capitalism is more equitable than ours. I guess Denmark is the same way. Belgium, that's freaky. But Australia, look into Australia because they have what they call superannuation. They've got a private pension program that's mandatory over there. It seems to work. It's not just their social security system is means tested. I keep going around in circles. Anyways, it's been 2 hours. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that the most important thing is preserving the state of Israel and making sure that the people in the state of Israel are safe. What do? Do we give them weapons so they can slaughter Palestinians? No, and I'll tell you why. Because some people are their own worst enemies. Not only does it make it... First of all, I think God will punish... if there is a God, he's got to punish that sort of cruel behavior. I really believe that when people collectively do things like that, God... We're not supposed to collectively punish people, but God can do anything he wants. Collective punishment is a war crime. Second of all, let's just look at it purely pragmatic. Oh, well, we win. That's how we did to the Native Americans. Well, I got news for you. Societies and technology has changed in the past 150 years. No one was sitting there with a movie camera filming us raping and slaughtering the Native Americans and stealing their land. If we had, things might have turned out a bit different. There are cameras everywhere now. And you can try to cover it up, but it's not working. People are seeing what's going on. And like I said, Pakistan has the bomb. There are 1.8 billion Muslims in the world. There are 450 million Arabs in the world. A lot of it's like Ritter was saying. It's like I've been listening to a lot of these experts. Technology's changed in the past 40, 50 years since the last war. Turkey's got a sophisticated army. and they've got drones, and they've got missiles, and they might not have nuclear weapons, but the Pakistanis do, and the Russians do, and the Chinese do, and the Russians are down there in Syria. It's a powder keg. And you can say, if you want to look at it the way a psychopath does, you don't care about the cruelty that's being. Why do I care? I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid. Why did my family hide Jews during the war? Some of them died. No, none of the Jews died, but some of us. I mean, literally, why would you do that? Why would you sacrifice members of your family for perfect strangers that you don't even know? Why? We thought it was the right thing to do. We didn't think gassing Jews and putting them in concentration camps and torturing them and working them to death. We didn't think that was right, and we felt so bad about it that we actually had to do something, even if it meant some of us would die. Some of us starved to death. The Germans took all the food. And some of us were tortured. I think I had an aunt that was like, we don't even talk about what they did to her. I don't want to talk about it. She seemed okay, though. Oh, no, I didn't meet her. She died. I heard the story from Tata Gerda. I never met this old woman, but why would you do that to an old woman? Because the Nazis were just animals, you know. There were some people in that org. I mean, they were just psychopaths that got off on torturing people. And I think the people that run Israel are kind of like that. They're getting off on this. I don't think it's in your if you're not, because obviously it's like, well, Israel's not going anywhere. I'm not so sure about that. I am really not so sure about that. And if you read the Bible, some people say Israel will be destroyed before the Messiah. I don't even know if any of that's true, but I mean, if you believe, say you're a Christian and you believe in that, maybe it's pointless to argue about this because what will be will be. But what I'm trying to say is, well, Israel isn't going anywhere. I think that's hubris. You're up against a lot of different countries and a lot of very angry people. And Hezbollah can get into this. Syria can get into this. The Turks have been threatening. The Iranians have been threatening. You've got all these people, all these different countries. Can you take them all on? And you've pissed off the whole world. Rightly or wrongly, they're siding with the Palestinians, right? Rightly or wrongly, they are siding with the Palestinians, all right? Just be practical. You've turned the whole world against you. There's 5 times as many violent anti-Semitic incidents in this country this year than last year. Why? Well, maybe some of those people need an excuse. Maybe some of these people, they just lost it. They're more acts of anti-Arab, like the guy that stabbed the little kid because of what was going on in Israel. God, what was he thinking? What was wrong with his fucking brain that he would do that? People just lose their minds over things like this, and they don't think. And then when they calm down, it's like, oh, what did I do that for? What do we do? What are we doing here? Blessed be the cheesemakers. Maybe he means the meat. Maybe just all dairy products. No, it's peacemakers. Blessed be the peacemakers, where the lion will lie down with the lamb, and people will stop. We don't. It's like that scene in 2001 where the 2 tribes of monkeys are busy killing each other. Oh, I forgot to buy groceries. Now, see, I'm going to go hungry. So if you don't like me and you want me to suffer, I spent so much time doing this. Sorry, not sorry, that I'm going to have to go hungry. Wait, I've got a pizza. I got a pizza I can eat. So I'm very sorry, but I'm not going to suffer. I've got a pizza. There's no meat on the pizza though. It's just, oh wait, no, it's a pepperoni pizza. So ha ha ha. I do have meat on my pizza. So I'm not going to starve. Maybe I can still get something from Aldi's delivered. I don't know. I got some deal through DoorDash. Yeah, you can show up and kill me. Well, I don't even care. Well, this is what I'm going to say to you if you're like a hyper pro Zionist and you get very upset. when anybody ever criticizes Israel or, whatever. We're not supposed to do that because we're supposed to be. Are we really free if we can't? It's like we're like somebody's slaves. Anyways, but if we're supposed to be good servants to the state of Israel and good friends and do what's best for you, I think sometimes friends don't just pander to you. You're asking for a servant, not a friend. A friend would tell you this. Stop. They grab you and they drag you out of the bar and stop the fight. They try to stop you from fighting, because even if you're winning the fight, it's like, look, let's an analogy. I've had a friend, he was killing somebody, kicking him, and I grabbed him away, and he said, I'm gonna kill you. I could have killed him. I says, yeah, think about that. You want to be in jail? He says, I would. He says, you're not gonna get away with this. They're witnesses. So why don't we just leave now? He's pretty. You messed him up pretty bad, but you're not gonna kill him, because I'm your friend, and I don't really give a shit about him. I'm just telling you, I don't want you to go to jail. I don't want the cops shooting you in the back, all right? Because you've lost your temper and you can't control yourself. No good is going to come from any of this. You've gone too far. Kicking the people of Palestine out and sending them into Sinai? Seriously? You really want to do that in this day and age? Oh my God, you're going to have the whole Arab world again. You're going to have the whole world against you. You got to sit down. You got to calm yourself. First of all, you got to get rid of Netanyahu and find what that Benny Abs. Find somebody that's at least rational. Okay. I'm not saying someone that's going to be like, oh, we're so sorry. Here, take half your land back. Someone who's just cool and collected and not a crook, and will think, what can I do to save the people of Israel from themselves? Or from Benjamin Netanyahu, more like. Because what you're doing in Gaza, it's not smart. I don't think it's totally inhumane, but on another level, it's not going to work out well for you. It's like, did the St. Valentine's Day massacre work out well for Al Capone? He took out all his enemies. That was good. But what did it? That kind of was the inspiration for the Federal Bureau of Investigation to take on criminals and also Bonnie and Clyde and stuff like that. They were just sick of all this stuff going on, and so finally someone cracked down on them. Now I just compared the state of Israel to Al Capone, but well, Hamas is basically a rival gang, guys. It's not like they're innocent. I don't care. I am not going to romanticize Hamas. Hamas is bad. Hamas did Hamas, and that's another thing. Hamas didn't start this. This started. I was watching all these interesting shows about when this started. The Zionist movement was kicked off, I think, like in the 1890s, and people started returning to Palestine in like different waves and displacing Arabs. So they saw what was happening, and they did not like it. It was like, oh, we're just out in the deserts. It's like there were people living there, and they realized what was going on, and they didn't like it. And the British were like, since the British were, Protestant, and Lord Balfour was a Christian Zionist. He wanted Jesus to come back, so he wanted to start a world conflagration. That's what this is all about. So that's why Balfour helped you. And even then, they were like, the Arabs, they do not like this. They do not like this at all. But the people that founded Israel were not nice people. First of all, I mean, let's just try to be objective about this, because I am, or I used to be, a leftist. They were socialists, and they were basically atheists. They weren't religious Jews. And for all the persecution of Jews by the Nazis, and supposedly these people were leftists, they were extreme. If you read what they said, they were extremely racist against Arabs. They consider them animals, basically, primitive, backwards, like dogs, like rodents. They said things like they're cockroaches, and killing them is not a bad thing. Was it Moshe Dayan who said, you can't make friends with these people? And I'll tell you why. We stole their land. We did. This is motionizing, and they're not going to want to make peace. They're going to want revenge. So what we have to do is we have to hit them so hard over and over again that they won't be willing to keep attacking. But it's like the Irish and the British. They never gave up. And it says, well, you won the war. No, you won a war. You won a war, not the war. You won a battle in a long, long war, and the war isn't over. It still isn't. It's not over. You didn't win shit. What you won was temporary. It's like saying that the Nazis won the war. Yeah, well, they took Poland, they took France. It looked like they were going to win, and they went into the Soviet Union, and they did. In the end, they didn't win. Only this is spread out over like maybe 100 years, 150 years. Are you going to win in the end? I don't know if there's any possible way to hold on to that land. But if you want to, I think you're going to have to try a different technique. Because what you're doing now, forget about what bothers me. It's just inhumane and wrong. Because I'm a bleeding heart. I got part of me, one of me in here is a bleeding heart. It really is. And the other's a demon. But let's not use that argument. Let's use the other argument. It's in the end, it's not going to work out for you. You're turning too many people against you. And Pakistan has the bomb. Iran has missiles. Turkey has a modern army. Egypt, all those countries, if they all ganged up on you all at once, and you think, oh well, Iran and Saudi Arabia, they all hate each other. They did, but you're kind of uniting them. You know, that's your hubris, thinking, your false arrogance, thinking that you're in control here. I'm not sure you're going to be in control for much longer. You got to rethink this. Never hate your enemies; it affects your judgment. And I think the job of the United States, if we were really Israel's friend, would be to hold and say, you know, if you want military aid, ceasefire and figure out something else. Because starting, you know, kicking this guy when he's down and then threatening to kill his whole family. What are you thinking? You're going to start. Are you thinking? Are you thinking at all about the consequences of what you're doing? You need to think and calm down and figure out a way to take Hamas out without destroying so many civilians. And you're not depopulating Gaza. And they're already planning on building condos there for God. What the fuck is wrong with you? You know. How do you think that's going to go over? You think, well, if you think you can get away with it, that's fine, but I don't think you are. Because if you read the Bible I don't know what it says in the Old Testament, the New Testament says that everybody's going to meet on Armageddon. And you think the Holocaust was bad. I mean, if you go by it's all interpretation, and it's a lot of it's self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you're going to go by what the Bible says, what the Christians have in store for you, it says that the Holocaust was nothing compared to what's going to happen. So that's kind of the prediction. It's like no matter I don't know why they're trying to help you to speed their acceleration, so that they're trying to speed the return of Jesus. So don't think that I think you know that they're not friends, but they're not the suckers you are. They've got some crazy ass idea in their head that they're gonna speed up Jesus coming back, like Jesus isn't going to take his own sweet time. But that's how arrogant these people are and crazy. But if you go by their plans, I'm not saying God's plan, but they're trying to make this happen. Not nice things are going to happen when Israel falls, and I think they realize that it's a little sliver of land and you can't win. And then what happens? The Antichrist takes over for 3 or 4 years, and oh boy, things are going to get bad for you. And then Jesus comes back, and he's the Messiah. So some of you are going to believe in him, and some won't. And that's not going to work out well either. So I don't know. If Jesus comes back, I'm going to say, you know what? This whole thing, what am I going to say? Can I see your ID? Oh, God. I'm just a fat old man. Am I going to have to say, well, this whole, I was never really an atheist. I was like an agnostic. And I was like, it's like you took your sweet time. I don't know. What's percentage in fighting God, right? What's the, but we all do, I guess. We do because we don't know what God wants. It's like every religion thinks that's the only one that's going to go to heaven. They all think that, and they all say different things. I mean, the basic stuff is the same. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. Be nice to your mom and your dad, and be a good citizen. Work hard. Don't be a suck. Don't hate. Excuse me. Pleasures of the flesh and all that. All suffering comes from the. Don't spend all your time drinking and fornicating and doing drugs because you'll destroy yourself. And you're here to raise a family and raise them right and be kind, but firm. But the devil's in the details. Every religion has a little different prediction of what's to be done and what ornamentation they have on the church and what icons, or maybe not have any icons. So they end up slaughtering each other over these little inky dinky minky things, And then it makes you just say, I throw my hands up. None of this is all bullshit. Voltaire, I think, had it right. He said, God is a comedian playing to an audience too afraid to laugh. And I think that's the whole thing. But if I'm going to be a good Christian, which I'm not, or a good agnostic, or just a friend to the state of Israel, because I should be a friend, and also to try to be a friend to other people of Palestine, because they're human beings. I would say to the people of Israel, oh, you want to kill Hamas? I don't blame you, but find some quiet way to do it without killing women and children. And this whole thing about kicking them out into the Sinai, I don't think you can do that without attracting a little bit of attention. So my advice would be is to get rid of Netanyahu and find somebody with a modicum of decency and competency who has your interests at heart. Because I don't think Netanyahu has anybody's interest in. He's like Trump. He would rather watch the whole world burn than lose his power. We got a bunch of them. Javier Bardon or whatever, that crazy anarcho-capitalist down in Argentina with the weird hair. I think he's a little nuts. I think anybody that still supports like communism, and he even says he's nuts. Slavoj Zizek says he's still a communist, but basically he's a social democrat. Okay, because I think he realizes, like state capitalism, even the communist Chinese realize that didn't work. They're trying to go for a new economic policy, socialist-oriented market economy, or not market socialism, but socialist market economy. They're trying to build capitalism up and move on to the next phase because they skipped a phase and killed 100 million people. Oops. That's nuts. Communism's nuts, but I think hyper-capitalism is nuts too. You've got to, even the Swiss, you've got to have some government. You've got to have some government intervention. You've got to have some kind of welfare state. And I'm not sure that this guy down in Argentina understands how that works. Well, nobody's saying you have to have the government run everything. Obviously, that doesn't work. But going in the opposite direction is not going to help. And that Bolsonaro guy that was in, what the hell's going on in Brazil now? I guess they got the left back in charge of Brazil. Putin's an interesting gangster, and that Xi Jinping in China. Leaders usually are just psychopaths and they like being in power. I think Israel right now, for its own good, needs to find someone rational that genuinely cares about the security of the country, but also has ethics and isn't willing to light the whole world on fire and kill women and children. I hope that that's possible. I don't think you have any choice. You're going to have to, as a friend, and this is the side of my brain that's trying to be your friend, not trying to say nasty things or whatever that. Just, it's not that they want. The demon doesn't want to destroy Israel. The demon wants to watch the world burn. He wants the whole world to burn. It's like I turn on the TV and there's Parisians. They're burning tires in the middle of the Champs Elysees. Oh, that hurts France. You know, fuck. The French are rioting. That's what they do best. Although January 7th, that kind of scared me. But God, it's like the demon likes Singapore, though. I think the demon likes order, and that's they execute drug dealers in Singapore. And there isn't a big welfare state, but they do. If you're willing to do a day's work, if you're disabled, they'll take care of you. If you're willing to work, they'll help you. They'll get you they'll do something to help you. They'll give you a negative income tax. But if you're just some bum that just wants a free ride, you're in the wrong place. They will let you die. And maybe that's the right attitude. If you're not willing to help yourself, screw you. I think what I am is a technocrat when I'm rational. When I'm not rational, I just want to watch the whole world burn. I think Israel needs to find a humane technocrat who is actually genuinely concerned about the security of the state of Israel, but realizes that you have to be humane, not just to be a bleeding heart, but because it's in your rational self-interest. Because every time you slaughter an innocent civilian, it's like, oh, well, Hamas made it. People don't accept it. I don't accept that. Oh, well, Hamas, look what Hamas made us do. And maybe Hamas wants that, but you know what? You fell right into their plan, and you're doing exactly what they want. It makes you look really bad. You got to be smart, and you're not being smart. This whole slaughtering everybody in Gaza, you look at it this way. It's not going to work to your interest. It's not. It's not going to work to your interest. This is not going to end well for you. You've got to calm down and think of some other, because you do. There's no other alternative. It's not like, well, this is our only alternative is to slaughter them. No, you don't get it. That isn't your only alternative. As a matter of fact, you're committing suicide by doing that. You're starting a fight you can't finish. Kind of like the American Civil War with the South. They started a war they couldn't win. We fought them with one hand tied behind our back. There was no way they could win that. We had the industry, but they just kept. They thought, well, they'll stop. And, well, no, eventually we got William Tecumseh Sherman and Ulysses S. Grant, and we trashed the South out of revenge. But that was, but slavery was bad. So being this vicious, and then the Nazis were vicious too, being this vicious thing, destructive thing. I'll give it one more thing, and then I should shut up eventually. When Germany invaded the Ukraine, they were greeted with salt and flowers as heroes. That didn't last long. The Wehrmacht, the German army, went to Hitler and they said, "Mein Führer, these people love us. They hate Stalin. They hate communism. Communism starved millions of them. They've been treated terribly. They're on our side. So, to keep them on our side, we should treat them maybe not as equals, but at least decently. At least decently." Hitler would have none of that. He hated Slavs. He considered them inferior. He considered them dogs. And so he treated them, like garbage. And he could have had people that would help him fight communism. Instead, he had partisans because they were just fighting for their lives. And that's what you're doing now. You're doing what Hitler did. You're being so cruel and so mean and so vicious that you're alienating everybody. You got to at least pretend to be humane, or you're going to make too many enemies. That's the way I see it. I could be wrong. But I mean, how many nuclear weapons do you have? And how many nuclear weapons does Pakistan have? And everybody knows you got nukes. I was watching the Odessa file. What if they put nerve gas on those missiles, or some biochemical thing? Some cheap man's nuke equivalent. What are you going to do then? You have to rethink this whole thing if you want to survive. And I can say, well, you can pack up and go back to New York, but that's not going to happen either. Israel's there. It's like saying, we took the land from the Native Americans. We're not going anywhere. And you're not going anywhere. And I really don't think the Palestinians are going anywhere. you have no choice. You have no choice. You've got to find some smart way to make peace with them and share that land or do something. But this. I don't know if there's a way for you to save yourself, but this isn't. This isn't it. You're committing suicide, in my opinion. You really are. It's like Germany during. They were so cruel and just so vicious and so destructive that they turned everybody against them, even people. I mean, Churchill hated the Nazis, but initially he tolerated them because he saw them as a buffer to the communists. Churchill was always also kind of an anti-Semite. He blamed the Jews for the creation of the communist ideology. There are quotes. That's a fact. I'm not making that up. And he saw Hitler as a buffer. Roosevelt wasn't a communist. I think that's the reason why Roosevelt and Churchill held off on creating a second front, because they were like, yeah, Stalin, not a good guy. Maybe we should just hold off and try to let Hitler and the communists just slaughter each other. And once we realized that the communists were beating the Nazis and that they might take on all of Europe, then we opened the second front. But being the hard ass, the badass, isn't always the right technique, because Germany didn't last that long. And it might have lasted longer if they had been a little kinder to the people that they'd conquered. It's not as if communism wasn't a worthy opponent to defeat. It's like us in the Cold War. We supported a lot of right-wing dictators like Pinochet and overthrew a lot of governments instead of trying to promote democracy. And I don't think that helped. I mean, eventually communism collapsed in upon itself, but a lot of mistakes that we made might have even prolonged the existence of communism by making the communists look good. It's tough. I don't know. Don't ask me. I'm not smart. But I think you're going to have to find some more rational, pragmatic method of dealing with terrorists like Hamas. Because when I say that, you should use a scalpel and not like a meat cleaver. Because slaughtering all the Palestinians, it's not a good look. Let's just leave it there. It's not a good look. Not that you're going to listen to me, but just so you know, I'm not a monster. I got something living in my brain that I don't know. But the good thing about it is it shoots its mouth off, but it doesn't ever really do anything. I can usually, before it starts to do anything, I can catch it and calm it, not calm it down. It's like, you know what? I let you out of your little box. You're going back in. Because now you're really going to cause problems, and just forget about that.